Good evening, everyone. This is a caucus of the Jersey City Municipal Council, and I don't often say it is Tuesday, October 9th in the year 2018. We had a scheduled 5:30 start. It's 5:42 p.m. Present at roll call, Councilperson Ridley, not yet arrived.
She's here,
Okay.
she just stepped away.
Prinzeri's here.
Here.
Mr. Baggiano is here. Mr. Yun. Here. Mr. Solomon. I don't see Mr. Robinson. Okay, Councilman Rivera, Councilperson Waterman, and Council President. So we're missing at this time Councilpersons Ridley and Robinson.
Okay.
Take it away, Council President.
Could you close all the doors, please? Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Thank you all for coming tonight, to our guests who are here tonight. And I'd like to begin by just taking a moment of silence. As all of you know, Daniel Fulop, Mayor Fulop's brother, passed very suddenly. So if we could all remember them in our thoughts and prayers. Thank you. Let the record show Councilman Robinson has joined us. Okay, we're going to begin. First up, and as reward for his endurance in past meetings, Andrew, you get to come up first. Andrew has 3A and 3B.
Thank you, Council President.
If we were taking the agenda from the beginning, he would be going first.
Thank you, Council. Item 3A is an ordinance which designates a portion of the frontage along 499 Washington Boulevard as no parking anytime. There's a physically recessed parking area, which in the code is designated as no stopping or standing, but the way that it functions today is that it's used as a pickup drop-off area for this building. We're just formalizing the way that it's currently operating today.
Any questions on this? No? Okay, 3B.
Item 3B is an ordinance which designates Tyson Lane as a one-way road. It's a small, narrow street roughly near the intersection of Municipal Avenue and Kennedy Boulevard. Again, this was an issue that was raised to us through the See-Click Fix website. A resident noted that some people were using Tyson Lane as a two-way road. However, it's extremely narrow, and this would designate it as one-way, beginning clockwise from Municipal Avenue to Kennedy Boulevard. It would also designate Tyson Lane as a stop intersection intersecting Kennedy Boulevard.
Any questions about this? Hearing none. Thank you, Andrew,
Thank you, Council President.
and thank you for your patience.
My pleasure.
Yes.
Do all the easy ones first.
Yeah, so equally rewarded is Tanya, I think. Tanya and Erica Baptiste. They have 10R. That's a resolution authorizing the use of competitive contracting to procure a consultant to update the land use element of the master plan of the city of Jersey City. Want to say anything about that?
Well, first of all, I don't know if everybody got the chance to meet Erica Baptiste. She's one of our newer planners here who I have so lovingly invited this evening, so you can get to know her. because she will most likely be the point person for the master plan. And so really tonight is just like it was the last time I was here, which is just a resolution authorizing us to use funds to write an RFP to do the land use element.
Pretty straightforward, Council? Yeah. Any questions? None? Thank you.
It won't always be like that.
Oh,
Too late. No, sorry, they're gone.
what's your question, Councilman?
Well, I mean, we did it 2015, right?
We have to do this every 2 years?
No, we have been on land use element since 2001.
So what is the difference between 2015 and this one? I cannot hear you well, you know.
I'm not sure what happened in 2015. I turned 35.
Did we start? Was there a few meetings and then it didn't?
Yes, that's correct. That was under Mary Ann, and it was just kind of an idea to start to write the RFP. Unfortunately, there was no real funding for it. We're not forgetting those meetings. We still have all of that information that we did, and we will be taking it into consideration. Even right now, the RFP that we're looking to write is based on a lot of the work that, I don't know if you remember when Willa Latham was here, she did a lot of work on that. So we plan on really kind of using all of the tools that we already have, just kind of updating them. But now the difference is that we have funding to actually go ahead and do a plan.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. All right, Doug, 10Z. Doug has 10Z. It's a resolution authorizing the award of a contract to Amber Air, Inc. for the parts and repairs to the refrigeration plant at the Pershing Field Ice Rink for the Department of Public Works.
Last year, in March, at the end of the hockey season, unfortunately, the return line on the plant, the refrigeration plant, blew and leaked out all the Freon. So we have to make some minor repairs. We plugged the leak. We have to make some minor repairs and tune up the machine and recharge it with Freon. That's the considerable expense here, is the Freon.
Okay, any questions on that? Hearing none.
When you guys, when's the opening day?
I'm not sure when opening day is, but as soon as, assuming if the council chooses to pass this, we'll get a purchase order the following morning, and I'll have them on site possibly that day to commence the repairs. So, we've spoken with the Hockey League, we've spoken with Recreation, we'll do everything in our power to make sure that there's nothing delaying them. The reason I didn't have this sooner was obviously because of the cost, we had to solicit additional proposals, and I didn't receive the second one from Panetta until the 26th of September. So that held us up a lot, but unfortunately, there wasn't much I could do about that.
The Hockey League being the Capitals?
I believe so, yeah.
Have they started now?
No.
And the still we use a frail gas.
I thought it's not user-friendly anymore.
That's what both companies quoted us for. So I defer to them on their judgment. That's what I believe the system was built for.
I thought they banned the friend gas already, no?
No, they wouldn't be using a banned chemical, no.
Okay. Thank you, Doug. Oh,
Did you get the emails today about Newark Avenue?
Yeah, I told
Are they gonna take care of it?
Alternate side is 7 to 9, so I told them to go. Go ahead.
Holes, you have Navarrete coming, you're gonna.
That's what I'm saying. That block, the alternate side of the street is 7 to 9. So I told them to have the truck down there during alternate side so they can access everything, and we'll take care of it. Okay? I understand. Okay. I thank you.
okay. Thank you. So we are going to get off the agenda. We have Governor McGreevy has graced us tonight, and as you recall, at the last meeting, we had a resolution on the council agenda that was withdrawn at the time, and members of the council had asked for information about kind of the progress for Jersey City Employment and Training and the regular reports. All of you have a staple box or received one of those staple boxes filled with 1,000 pages of reports.
Talking about resolution 10T.
Oh, is it on the agenda?
Yes.
Okay. I was told it wasn't going to be on the agenda.
For now, it's there.
Okay. Great.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Council President. Thank you, members of the council. I had the pleasure of speaking with the councilman, with Michael, and I just wanted to share with you, I apologize for the amount of paper, but I wanted to give you more than you ever rationally would want. But there are a couple things I just wanted to highlight. One is this Jersey City Municipal Council presentation, if you could look at this paper. What I wanted you to just to understand is that if you could just go to the last page, is just thankfully Jersey City Employment and Training continues to maintain services, but I wanted you to be aware of the decline in federal WIOA funding. And from fiscal year 14 through 19, we had a reduction of effectively $1.2 million, as well as a concomitant reduction in CDBG funding of $640,000. So I wanted you to be aware of, as with WIOA is formula-driven throughout the nation, and I only expect that there will be even greater reductions with the Trump administration budgets in terms of the Department of Labor. But nonetheless, I wanted you to be aware of, and I apologize for moving quickly, but in this memorandum from Ronaldo Santiago, our Director of One Stop Operations, you will see that our employment rate is 67.84 for those people who completed Jersey City employment training, and last year was 69.8%. So despite the fact that we've had decreased funding, we continue to provide for services through the hard work of some of the employees who are here today, as well as our ability to garner funds. Here in this brochure, you'll see, Michael, this is a Department of Transportation grant that JSEP received. It's over $600,000 of federal monies that we received from the federal government. And in addition to that, we were able to receive monies from the New Jersey Reentry Corporation in the concurrent amount of $1.2 million that helps us to maintain operations. And with that, I'll just ask if there's any questions. And again, I apologize, and I assured Councilman Young that I will also forward information directly to the council from this point ongoing.
Members of the council, any questions for Governor McGreevey?
$426,000, Governor. And you also, I'd like to know what other expenses beside cash disbursements. It doesn't explain what they are.
Which page are you on? What are you looking at, Rich?
I'll tell you, there's 1,000 pages here. I don't even know if they are.
Okay, what I'll do is, no. What we'll do is, Rich, I'll just give you a breakdown.
There is a question I just like to ask you.
Thank you, sir.
Governor, for the
Sure.
thank you for being here. For the your performance outcomes, just give me a little sense of, just tell me a little bit about the the different what each category is: credentials, skills gained, median earnings, and then how they're calculated.
So these are all federally driven programs, and in fact, Jermaine, Councilman, was kind enough to have a program with the Black law enforcement supporting the community 2 weeks ago. And part of this, these are programs that are specifically focused by the federal government. So the first program is the adult program. So let me just back up. If you look at this chart here, these are the number of people that have come through our One Stop. 6,482 registrants. People exit on an ongoing basis from year to year, a total of 7,361 served. And then underneath, you'll see these are licensed program training vendors. So these are vendors that are licensed by the State of New Jersey Department of Labor. So if Jim McGreevey is coming, if Jim McGreevey is a resident of Jersey City on Garrison Avenue, and he wants to, say, for example, become a phlebotomist, he can register for a phlebotomy school so that he can become a licensed phlebotomist. And so what will happen is Jersey City Employment and Training, through the Department of Labor and Workforce Development, will provide for something called an individual training account, which will enable that person to have anywhere between 9 to 12 weeks of training. And so what you see here is in these breakdowns are these for the specific groups. So we have adults, so those would be adult individuals that want training. Dislocated workers, those would be for individuals who've had their companies move or have been relocated. Youth, Nikita, could you please stand? Nikita is our youth, which we have a great program working cooperatively with the Hudson School of Technology. And then we have the total. So what that means is we have a numerator and denominator. That would mean, if you look at the employment for the quarter, is that 350 of the 460 adequately completed the program. So candidly, people enroll in classes, but people also drop out in classes. And what we try to do is to measure our success in retention as well as employment. Councilman Young asked me, well, what is your employment rate? Our employment rate for fiscal year 2018 was 67.84. Candidly, the year before was actually slightly better, 69.8. So that reflects the number of people employed after they've gone through a training program.
Sure. So NJLW, they license the program training vendors. If you see that the location of the training vendors, like a Caucus School of Trade, so all the way up the New Jersey, northern New Jersey. I don't know how many people able to, Jersey City people travel to there to take the,
Well, so, Councilman,
or they come down to here to teaching over here.
So it's both. So we work primarily with National Career Institute in Journal Square. And National Career Institute in Journal Square with Dr. Blunt is the primary. But if we have too many individuals that are filling a classroom, then we will look at Hohokus as a backup facility. But we provide that opportunities. And again, we welcome all vendors to participate with Jersey City Employment and Training. Obviously, for purposes of our clientele, we would want them to be in Jersey City, of Jersey City. So, but what is required is that they be licensed by the state of New Jersey, the Department of Labor and Workforce Development.
So, if you have to take a class in the Caucus School of Trade or like a Bergen Community College, do they provide the transportation too?
No, we do not provide transportation.
So, individually have to be, I think it's...
So what happens is, say for example, if there's a specialized training program, like I meet regularly with Hudson County Community College, but if there's a specialized training program that's not, not available by Hudson County Community College and we have a demand, then we will reach outside of physically the Hudson County area.
But I mean, my question is that yes, there were training facilities available outside of Jersey or Hudson County, but the transportation is probably an issue because most people take the train. Financially, they have a very difficult time.
Yeah.
So, from here to Caucus, there were no mass transportation.
We don't, Councilman, we don't require, we just provide as many opportunities as possible.
Mm-hmm.
Or what we can use the money for is strictly prescribed by federal law. We actually have no discretion whatsoever. We can only use it for approved individualized training accounts as authorized by the state of New Jersey. It's federal monies. So this program is set forth, I don't want to say it's cookie cutter, but it's set forth with standards nationally.
Is it also employment rate is like a 69, 70%?
Yes, sir.
It's a great, but industrial-wise, so that like a 70% of the employee, which industry they're working now?
I can break that down for the individual vendors.
Yes, the reason I'm asking that, because there are most people like a labor kind of industry, like a lot of construction going city of Jersey, so they're able to participate in some jobs available, but in the future, maybe 2000 next year after, it can be...
I couldn't agree with you more. So say, for example, I understand construction is strong now, but we understand that construction is not going to be strong inevitably. So we're trying to move, say, for example, we have a program called NJ Bill that educates young men and women for the construction trades. But what we're also trying to do is educate people in HVAC so that they can maintain buildings for the lifetime of the building. So we understand that construction is strong, it's an impetus, it stimulates the economy, but what we need are permanent long-term jobs.
So you have an ultimate Plan for that.
Yes, and so that's why we move towards, we have HVAC, we're looking at the hospital industry, phlebotomy, that we're also looking at CDL licenses. And so we partner with business community to try to train people, say for example, as I shared with you on the phone with Eastern Millwork, they have computerized woodwork. We developed an individualized training account to train people from the community to become proficient in computerized woodwork. And so we actually developed a curriculum to do that so that we were able to give the business owner the money, but now we have 3 employees earning over $60,000 from Greenville that have the benefit of those jobs. Rich?
Questions?
Me before, what page? I went through most of this, so I have a lot of questions, but you said to me, what page? There's 1,000 pages here, and next time, do me a favor, have them mark,
Yeah,
page.
I apologize.
1,000, so when
Yes.
you asked me the question, I couldn't tell you, what page it
Yeah,
is.
no, thank you, Rich, and I apologize.
So, actually, we got the all documents the last minute, so we can't review that. So after we review, if any further question through the council president, then we'll invite you one more time, okay?
Michael, I'm there and accessible, and I welcome, I mean, the council, I welcome them to come to our training programs, to participate. I mean, candidly, your involvement only enriches our experience in that, and we have some of our clients here today. Mr. Murphy, do you want to stay up? Guys, do you want to stand up and just wave? That's all you're getting is a wave. All right, sit down.
Agency is supposed to make the quarterly report to the...
Yes, and but I will send them now to the council as well. I will do that
Yeah,
myself.
so we can have the shares information.
Yep.
So we'd like to be the same page, so we can continue to support you, the agency to create a job and to provide a job service to people we need,
Yes,
So
no,
please.
and I thank you for that. And I share with the council president, who was nice enough to come down and spend 2 hours of his time, as well as that we will send it to the council as well. Thank you, sir.
Why did we cut his program? Because we cut you somehow. I seen it in your numbers. Yeah.
That was before my time, so I don't know exactly why, but I can look into that. Yeah, I don't know
I
if you
want to know
know.
why we cut a program like this, You understand, because not everybody deals with
Sure,
this
sure.
program.
That was the last cycle, so I'm not sure.
So find out.
Yeah,
See why
yeah.
Carmen,
Sure,
please.
yep. Sure.
Have you ever had an independent agency come in and kind of evaluate the,
Oh, yes.
the sort of performance? Not
Yeah.
the auditing, but like a
Oh, definitely.
mathematic,
Yeah.
like EC is coming in and like a.
And then we also work with, we work with a number of partners, and we work cooperatively on third-party objective evaluation. Yeah, on what's working and what's not working.
I'll connect with you, but I'd love
Sure.
to better understand what you've done there. And,
Yeah. Good.
we'll learn about that. So.
Hey, council, anything else? Governor, it's your
Thank
team.
you.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Thanks, Ronald. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Give me a second, let me, thank you.
Elizabeth said she's going to be a little late. She's running from another thing.
I don't think there's anything easy on this agenda that's left. I've got JC Masco and Bayfront.
That's sort of straightforward.
Okay. Rob, you're up. Yeah?
Yeah. In that seat.
Medical Center, about our last resolution on the agenda, Resolution 10Z6. And let me read the title of that. It's a resolution authorizing an agreement settling litigation in New Jersey Tax Court between the City of Jersey City and the Jersey City Medical Center, providing for a payment of a tax settlement and other healthcare collaboration payments by the Jersey City Medical Center for the tax years 2016 through 2023.
Want to talk about this, the two of you?
Sure.
It all started in Morris County.
Don't all jump in at one time.
Actually, that is a good place to start. We all started in Morris County. So kind of the history of medical centers, and you can correct me if you feel that I'm incorrect on any of this, or the history of taxing medical centers that are not for profit comes down to a Morristown case from a few years ago, where the city of Morristown, or township of Morristown, entered a tax court lawsuit against the Morristown Medical Center. The logic being that while part of the medical center was not for profit or nonprofit, part of the medical center was for profit. So it's a matter of, can you say that the entire thing is not for profit, while entities or pieces of it within that larger entity are for profit? And the tax court found that there was a tax liability for the medical center. That case is currently being appealed. Now, concurrently with that, there's legislation in Trenton that was actually passed by the state legislature last year, but was pocket vetoed by Governor Christie, which would allow for a bed tax of $2.50 per day per bed. Okay, so now $2.50 per bed per day, which would be approximately, under the analysis with the medical center in Jersey City, would be approximately $300,000. The assessment of Jersey City as to what the medical center should pay under the same analysis the tax court used for the Morristown Medical Center would be approximately $800,000. Now, the legislation could upend what the tax court did, saying instead of getting what the tax court says you should get, you're instead going to get this bed tax, which would be far less than the $800,000 that we would be entitled to. It would be approximately $300,000. So essentially, we are getting certainty with this settlement. So we're getting not $800,000, not $300,000, somewhere in the middle. So it gives both the medical center as well as the city certainty through 2023. And the numbers are outlined in the agreements. So one piece of this is the straight tax settlement, but contemplated as part of the resolution is a healthcare collaboration agreement, which calls for additional payments. So for the one document, the agreement for settlement of taxes, it's $300,000 for each year going back to 2016 up to 2023. The healthcare collaboration is $500,000 for 2016, $500,000 for 2017, and $250,000 for each year from 2018 to 2023. Now, as I've talked to the council about settlements before, you're not getting everything you might want to get. You're also not getting your worst case scenario. You're getting something in the middle. And I think both the medical center and the city would agree that we're essentially splitting the baby in the middle of what the city's best case scenario and worst case scenario based upon the case law that's progressing as well as the legislation that is pending.
We expect $800,000, that's what you mean?
Yeah. But when the time has passed, yes, it'd be $800,000 for 2016.
So in other words, they pay something they're supposed to pay.
Yes.
So when you do that, when you see that the resolution, they say voluntarily payment, so I scratch my head. You know, I never heard that anybody pay the taxes voluntarily.
Well, it's not statutory at this point because there's no official assessed value of taxes.
So, yeah.
If I could.
Yes. From our perspective, from the medical center's perspective, obviously we've been in this community for quite a long time. Having started as a city hospital a number of years ago, it's very important to us as an institution that we work alongside the city. We work alongside all of the different initiatives that the city has, and we have a renewed focus as an organization, as a systems. We join RWJ Barnabas towards what's our social impact on the community, and we've already been working alongside the city at various opportunities to help grow healthcare within the community, whether it's through healthy eating, trying to broaden our nutrition initiatives, in developing greenhouses in communities that need them around the city. That's a program that's already been initiated that we're looking to move forward with, as well as working on how it is that we can provide better access to healthcare for seniors in the community, and a number of different initiatives that we have that span all aspects of our organization. We remain committed to to the community, to all of our different clinics through behavioral health and through our homeless programs and whatnot. And it's important for us to make sure that we continue those. And that this is really solidifies our commitment, not just in words, but also financially towards being able to do that. And that's, for us, why we look at it from this two-pronged approach, that we recognize the need to provide resources that pay for those services that we utilize through the different public services that are provided to us as a not-for-profit, but also carving out that piece that really ensures that those additional funds that we contribute are related to healthcare and are related to making sure that those in the community have better access to healthcare.
So business services, so we 26, 27, 28, so $800,000 each year, almost $2.4 million.
So we get 1.6 million, the 16 and 17 payments within, I think it's 20 or 30 days of approval. And then the first payment for 2018 is going to be, I think, January of 2019, and then from then on out, it's regular quarterly installments.
So you have a plan to wait to spend the money?
It's already spent. No, I'm kidding. The payments that we're going to get the rest of this year go into they're basically surplus. So then they get billed into next year's or whatever we want to do with it. Yeah. So we haven't necessarily planned what we're going to do with any of it yet. But then the future payments go into the budget for revenue.
Or whatever we call it, the back tax. The surplus, right?
Yeah. Miscellaneous revenue not anticipated. That's the category. It's
2016, 2017, 20 days.
26 and 27?
Within 20 days, yeah.
20. Oh, well, you can schedule it.
Well,
I hear people say it's
Yeah.
expensive, medical care is expensive for them, so I'm just saying, is this the best we could do?
well, it's perhaps not the best we can do, but it's definitely not the worst we can do. That's sort of where it came to.
It's not the best, but it's not the worst.
Yeah, I mean, the worst is actually 0, is what we get now. The best would theoretically be full taxation at 800, but neither of those are sort of where we should be. So.
No, if we any, because we just get to receive the documentation, so we didn't get a chance to read it, So,
So you had a version in the original council packet. There's an updated version. It's just a couple of very small. I forget what the changes were in this document.
This was on 2 meetings ago as well.
Without the agreement.
Without
So
the
they
agreement.
haven't reviewed this until last week.
But the concept has been there.
so we didn't read the contract yet, so we'll let you know tomorrow, okay? Yeah.
Thank you very much. We look forward to continuing to work with
Yeah.
you and collaborating on how we can make the city healthier.
Yeah, so you can find the council. If you find any questions, I'm going to ask you tomorrow, okay? All right? Okay.
Okay. Let's see, let's tackle Bayfront. Final talk on Bayfront, yeah? Oh, wait, Bob Baker, I'm sorry, Bob, why don't I have yours? What's your item?
18912.
18912, 10W, everyone.
10W is a resolution authorizing an award of a contract to Millennium Communications Incorporated to upgrade the Genetic Synergist Access Contract Software for the Department of Public Safety, Police Communications Center through the Interlocal Purchasing System.
Okay, Bob, you want to say anything about this?
A little bit of history. 3 years ago, the access control system at my facility, which is should be the most secure and restricted facility in the city of Jersey City, stopped working. So right now the facility is wide open. Anybody can come in and out the doors. We have to get like an armed person at the front door to watch. We can't get it 24/7. The company who installed it is out of business. So I was stuck with ripping it out and putting in a new control system. Brian Platt was kind enough to come down with John Metro, and at that time, the proposals were $100,000 to put the system in, to which the three of us looked at each other and say, where's the city coming up with $100,000? So we went back to the drawing board, and I asked companies to see if they could utilize the core of the system that's installed, use the wiring, just replace the card reader heads, and all I would need is the software package, which I found out we already own through Genetec, the software system we use for CCTV. It's called Security Desk. It has a full-fledged access control platform. So all I'm paying for is just the software, the installation of 18 card readers, and I have a full-blown, top-of-the-notch access control system for far less than the original proposal.
Benefit, what kind of cost-cutting benefit do you have?
I'm sorry, Councilman.
Yeah, cost-cutting benefit today. How much is the,
The original installation would have been $100,000.
and this is 180
No, it's only $18,500.
dollars.
Okay. Peace. Thanks. All right. Thanks, Bob. Okay. We have Steve Miller, but why don't we handle the Bayfront?
Bayfront, okay.
Yeah, we're going to do Bayfront, Steve. You're always here anyway, right? You like being here. All right, folks, final questions on Bayfront. Who is stepping forward on this? Diana? Joe?
About 4A, City Ordinance 4A, Council President?
Well, I'm here with my team, Mike, Joe, Lenny from Langen Engineering, to answer your questions. So we're just here. We don't see if you want any additional information. There was a memo that was provided to you dated October 5th, answering some of Councilman Solomon's follow-up questions. Is there any questions?
Why is there a broker on this transaction? A broker, Cushman Wakefield is the broker, right? Is there a need for a broker on this transaction?
On which transaction?
On this acquisition?
Well, there's no broker needed to enter into the cooperation agreement with us or the environmental agreement with them or anything that's being presented to you in this ordinance. But
Honeywell's broker.
yeah,
So
Honeywell's broker.
Honeywell had a broker, that's their problem, their bill, it has nothing to do with us.
It's not incorporated into our costs.
It's not.
no.
I just want to make sure any other council people question before me.
Go ahead. We'll check.
I've got a couple myself.
If you have no question, other council, then I'm going to say, it's okay?
Go ahead.
I just want to make sure, Solomon, Councilman, you go first. No. Oh, no, you go first.
Okay, just come out with it. $170 million of taxpayers' money. Come on.
So, this is a, can I start it then, Councilman?
Go ahead.
Yeah. Can you start? Yeah. So, today's meeting package is very interesting. The item called Morris Canal redevelopment plans. When we see that Councilman Robinson worked so hard, bring up the 21% of affordable housing into Municipal project, right? You really worked so hard.
You did?
Yeah, he did. So, very valuable conversation with the Councilman Robbins mentioned to that. In order to get even 21% of affordable housing, it was a lot of working with twist arms, developers, and so on and so forth. So thank God they provide the analysis sheets. Interesting is that even though they claim 21% affordable housing, the developers, they say, we're not going to make almost no money. If we're lucky, we make like $500,000. even though 20% affordable housing. But actually, it's 21% affordable housing. It's not 21% affordable housing. The 10% on site, and another 10% is out of site. You know, so if not, they pay, instead of the build 10% out of site, they pay like $18,000 per unit. So now, Mayor mentioned to that he's going to try to put a 35% affordable housing in the Bayfront. I'm going to try to get the honest opinion from you as a redevelopment agency director, right? You're not director, right, Diane?
Yes.
Not the acting anymore, right?
No.
Oh, congratulations, by the way. As a director, you deal with a lot of different redevelopment projects and so on. So, really, you think we can find the developer come with a 35% affordable housing units to build in Bayfront?
Do I think that we can find developers who are willing to do 35% affordable? Yes,
If they
but,
say yes, under which condition?
well, those are varied, and that's why we have Mike Hanley here. So Mike Hanley did the analysis for us, but those would depend on a lot of factors, namely their financing and what kind of subsidies they can get, but.
Yes, so can you explain to us? Because they just bless you, but I'm going to put you God. God bless you. You feel better? So, yeah.
I mean, I think
Based on another package, Councilman James, that Robinson mentioned that 21% was tough to do that, you know. But now we talk about 35% affordable housing, the build in Bayfront, really the developer willing to build 35% affordable housing. If they say yes, the way the director say that, then under what kind of condition they're willing to build 35%? Because we talk about $200 million involved. Taxpayers' dollars. So can you explain to us? In order to build a 35% affordable housing, what kind of things we city of Jersey have to provide? Simple.
So the program we are attempting to execute is to take control of the property and to use as much property as is necessary to recover the city's dollars through the building of market rate housing. And that leaves, in our desire and our hope is that leaves a sufficient amount of property that we can use to build affordable housing in the balance of the site. So, you know, like rough justice, if we have 3 sites, we're attempting to get the 2 market rate sites to generate enough positive revenue for the city such that the 3rd site can have the time and resources to be utilized as an affordable housing project.
So I'm going to ask a question whatever you answer, I'm going to ask by case. Now then, site 1, site 2, site 3. You know, so then on the first or second side, you try to create some kind of positive revenue from the city of Jersey City. Then probably they have to build the market rates of the things and the housing. And the 3rd side, it can be affordable housing unit. Then you try to print all the affordable housing in one area. That's what you mean?
I mean, that's an example. There are an unlimited number of possibilities. We are going to be the master developer of many acres, right? And we are going to do our best to put affordable housing throughout the site, whether it be, you know, sometimes you'd certainly want some opportunities to utilize the subsidies that exist in the world, and they require more affordable units in certain buildings than others. We want to get to tax credit deals, because tax credit deals drive down the cost of projects, right?
Tax credit from the city of Jersey? No, from the state.
Typically, the way affordable housing projects and many projects that you've supported here are funded is through federal tax credits that are doled out at the state level through HMFA. And then often you're contributing CDBG money or getting county home funds. There's a subsidy layering process to building affordable housing, because affordable housing new construction cannot be supported by affordable rents. That's why the subsidies exist. So this master development plan is an attempt to create additional subsidy through the strengths of the city. The city has a couple of, important strengths. We exist in perpetuity. We have a very low cost of funds. We don't have to feed shareholders in equity. So by driving down costs that would otherwise have to go to pay for equity or to pay for shareholder returns, we're able to drive those costs back into the project. And the hope is that we get to 35% affordable housing units, but this is going to occur over, a decade or 2 decades or 3 decades, and during that time, maybe it'll be more, maybe it'll be less. We're gonna have to keep evaluating it. The group is gonna have to keep evaluating how things are going and what the market's telling us during that whole time, so that the city's dollars are protected and we're maximizing the units that are created.
Mr. Focus, City of Jersey buy land, actually buildable land is a 65 acre. We printed the total $200 million for 65 affordable buildable land. That means each acre cost the City of Jersey, land costs $3 million. We, as a City of Jersey, we not build towers or residential housing, we not. We are actually land of the owners. We only get the profit from when you sell the land, then more above our cost. That's the key. It's different. So I'm not care about that. If they're able to build up a federal state grant to build whatever they can find. But only our concern is that our cost of each land is $3 million. Then when we make some kind of a land sale with a developer, we gotta ask the developer, we're gonna sell this land $3 million or $5 million in market value at the time, then developer come to City of Jersey, mayor is a great idea. We're gonna build affordable housing 35% inside on the side, but order to build 35%, we want land below your cost, number one. Number two, we want to make sure that 30 years tax want to match with the affordable housing years, terms. You understand? And in the meantime, City of Jersey provide the municipal service, and which is we need a new police station up there, no question about it. But very front of the police, we need a fire, and we have to build a school. And those kind of expensive, and top of the out almost approximately phase one, phase two, top of $200 million. Then end of the day, as a council person, how are we going to create revenue from the bond, the project, after sell the land, how we can pay off our bond? That's the key.
Nothing's changed from June 27th, when we voted on this. Like, nothing's literally changed. There's no new answers, no new information around that. Correct me if I'm wrong, right? There's nothing else has changed around that. So all of this is speculation, and everybody acknowledges that the numbers that are going to have to come in, we'll see when the offers come in and so forth, and be able to evaluate on as the tranches are sold as to whether or not that makes economic sense for the city of Jersey City, and for our goals as it pertains to achieving our affordable housing goals around that. So, that basic, correct me if I'm wrong, that basic premise remains the same. So.
Selling property for market rate to enable us to then provide land to be sold for, some affordable housing mix. So it's going to be a balancing throughout the process.
There's nothing new added since June 27th to first reading to second reading now that's changed the dynamics of that equation, right? So again, we made the vote on June 27th. We approved the idea of acquiring the property. This is essentially effectuating that, and ultimately, when those sales, once we acquire the property and we go to sale, that's when the jockeying, I guess, and folks will say, I want more, 35%. Okay, I want. This doesn't make economic sense for us, and we need to get more money back for the Jersey City to repay our our bonding costs and so forth, bonding expense around this, then we want to see more on the first sale than we see down the road. So,
President to mention to that, even though City Council passed June 6th to pass the resolution to purchase the land, if this council today and tomorrow, if we not approve the issue bond, then sale not going to go on. So this is the last chance this council really think over again to really this is right investment or not. That's what it is. Because we passed one, we're going to be.
More, but nothing's changed.
I know that.
So I'm acknowledging what you say is true. Like, so none of the circumstances have changed. There are no new conditions in your decision making here. It's just a question of whether you want to adhere to your decision that you made on June 27th and move forward with the acquisition. Now, if you say, as I would say, like my question would be, who's going to issue the bonds, and will we have final say on like ultimately the interest rates that it's going to be at? So the cap here is 8%, and in talking to some folks who are in this industry around whether the bonding and so forth, who's going to issue the bonds and the notes around this thing, the debt, I don't know the exact terminology around this, but like, and who will make that call of what the terms of the agreement are, and will the council ultimately come back to see that? Because if you tell me it's at 8%, I'm probably not likely to say that's a great idea at that point, right? That's like a bad economic investment for us. Yes.
Why is the city getting involved? First of all, you're burdening us, the taxpayers that live here, with $170 million in bonding, all right? Why isn't Honeywell selling this property off? Because anything the city gets involved in always gets screwed up. And I'll tell you right now, 3 years from now, 5 years from now, there'll be major problems with this. I want to know why Honeywell isn't selling this. Who stepped in?
You weren't there for the vote on June 27th, were you?
I don't remember.
I don't think you were. So, I mean, we discussed all of that. The goals remain the same. I think for the folks who voted for it and approved it, it was the idea of the opportunity in acquiring the property, of the opportunity to be able to increase and maximize the affordable housing that we'd be able to do because we will be the owners of the property, and then also to maximize other community benefits such as local hires, bringing in minority workers and contractors and developers around all of that stuff. So there's a number of things that we can do, whether improving the infrastructure and transportation and things like that. We get to make the call on all that stuff, ultimately, as the owners of the property. I'm a fan. I said it from the start, and I'm going to stand by it, that like this is a unique opportunity for us in that regard. I do think we need to do it right, as we discussed, as we talked about approving people who are going to be, who are on the advisory body in all of these matters, as well as we go through this process. And I just want to make sure that, again, we're putting ourselves in the best economic position. And so my questions have more to do with the issuance of the bond, who's ultimately issuing the bond. Is it the city of Jersey City? And in terms of negotiating that in the market, I don't know how that works. So like, people have suggested to me that those numbers can change.
Yeah, but, I mean, regardless of the options, the city credit is going to go out in the market as it always does and get the best rate available to the city. So like, you know, the plan right now is to start in notes. And in today's marketplace, those notes would probably be about 2.5%.
This is so $170 million, not JCRA bond. City of Jersey, we issue bond as a master developer. Correct? Yes.
I mean, the city is going to provide the credit, whether the city is the technical issuer or the JCRA, we're the issuer with the city. Either one will end in effectively the same place with the city credit providing a.
We got the guarantee for the bond issued by JCRA $170 million. This one, City of Jersey issued $170 million under the city, not the JCRA. Some bond, the JCRA issue, we back up the bond as guaranteed. But this one, City of Jersey issue, because why? JCRA has no plan for the repayment of bond. So we actually issue bond. Now, issue bond, the council president pointed out, can be interest up to 8%.
The interest is going to be the interest is going to be what the market accepts. And we know rough justice what the market is today. So it's not going to be 8%. You have to put into the ordinance a maximum rate. That's the way ordinances are written. But we are not going to borrow at 8% today. Even if we permanently finance it, wouldn't be at 8% today. That's not the plan. That's not what will happen under any visible circumstances that we have in the near future. I mean, the world can change, you know, wars can break out, depressions, things like that. But in what we know today, we will not be borrowing at 8%, we'll not be borrowing near 8%, and the note will likely to be in the, call it 2.5% to 3% range.
Something, and I'm not sure if we really got a clear answer. But he was saying the interest rate. I know you're saying that it shouldn't go as high as 8%. Is there opportunity for us to know that rate, or is this locking us in and saying whatever the rate is, we're going?
Until you.
No, I'm saying once you know the rate, it's already done. There's no opportunity to come back.
Well, so the first thing we're going to do is issue a one-year note. We're going to prepare a disclosure document to the entire investment community. We're going to publish a notice, and we're going to take bids on a set day from the entire community that did bids, and we're going to pick the lowest interest rate that'll bid on that day. And Mike was giving you what the rate would be today, so it's going to be a competitive process. On that day, we pick the lowest rate. Then we'll report back with all your notes that you do to the city council and tell them what that rate was. But it will be a competitive process. Pick the lowest one. It's not that complicated. Over time, as long as we stay in notes, we'll repeat that process. Notes can't be for more than 1 year. If we go to bonds, that's the step where we come back to the council and we ask the council permission to adopt a resolution authorizing us to go to bonds. But that is not our intention for at least, certainly for the first year, maybe not the second or third. So you can be comfortable that we're going to issue these notes before the end of the year in order to close. We're going to do it through a competitive process. We have a list of every investment banking firm out there between our firm, the law firm, and the financial advisors. The entire world will know about it. We'll get multiple bids, and we'll pick the lowest interest rate for the first year.
So now, can I speak with that?
Are you going to speak to that question, what he just said directly, or?
Yeah, no.
The
No, you can finish that, right? Go ahead.
And the 8% in the ordinance is uniquely, under this type of ordinance, you have to put a cap. So rather than having to go back and ask you to amend the ordinance over the years, we picked 8. That was my pick. Maybe I should have picked 6. Only because I knew when we came down to it, we were going to get the best rate available in the market. And that's as long as we're going into the public markets. There's also the opportunity to go to the New Jersey Infrastructure Bank, which would be a long-term financing alternative for certain water and infrastructure improvements, where we would get long-term money at close to the 2.5%. That's also an option. There's various options, and we're going to come back. But our goal, on behalf of the city, the financial advisors, is to get the lowest rate every time.
So now, can I ask you, if infrastructure, especially it's a water line, sewer line, why we have to do that instead of the JCMUA do? If JCMUA do, they have a maybe better rate for the infrastructure bond and so on. So, but why City of New Jersey issue that infrastructure bond over ours instead of
That is definitely something that we're.
I'm sorry?
We are exploring that. I mean, all the menu of options are available, but until we have the specific rollout of when the infrastructure is going to come and what infrastructure comes in which order, we can't identify who's issuing what as we sit here today. But when it comes time for water and sewer, the best option may very well be the JCMUA. And in that case, we would work with the JCMUA to get those bonds issued through the infrastructure bank, where you usually get 50% zero interest. I mean, that's part of the plan. We looked at Section 108, the possibility of Section 108 loans to drive down the cost. We can look at open space money and green acres. I mean, this is, you know, we're not spending $170 million on day one. We have to purchase the property, and we have to fund an amount that allows us to do some initial infrastructure. But each time we have to borrow, we're going to do it in the way that's most cost efficient to the residents of the city.
So the reason is that I'm going to say actually, affordable housing unit, I brought the issue since 2013. Every time when we build the high rise of the waterfront, I always make sure that they provide affordable housing. At the time, not many council people pay attention or this administration. So I'm suffering affordable housing because gentrification in the city of Jersey is a very serious issue. But now, let me put it this way. Actually, when you look at just one item as affordable housing, you know, talking 170 or $20 million is one portion of that. But as a councilman, when you look at overall of the city finance issue, there's some concern because why? Our gross debt serves per year almost $750 million, $750 million gross debt. But net is around $500 million. Plus, we're going to print the $45 million we did already made this year for the capital improvement. And then we're going to put in the $170 million for Bayfront. And another one, we're going to print another $14.5 million for retiree. It's make actually insert all the city council members when you took a budget. So total come up almost $700 million. If we just talk about the one item, $170 million, and this size city is maybe not big of deal. But when we see that the total outstanding gross debt, we talk about a lot of dollars. You know what I'm saying? So because of that, as we see that the taxpayers, you know what I'm saying? Taxpayers as a concern, we gotta make sure that our choice is the right choice. Because when the mayor, when they make a presentation for the Bayfront, he has a three scenarios. One,
You raised this issue, didn't Don explain this on $700 million?
No. That's why I think we're gonna have to be understand. When I say the gross debt is $700 to $750 million, but net debt is different because we pay every year $70-some million interest. But doesn't matter which year you go. 2016 gross debt was $775 million. After deduction, net debt is $450. 2000, we say 16. When we go 2017,
I mean, without going through each line on the debt statement, the debt you have, you currently pay for. It's in your budget, right? This is new debt, and it's a lot. And I understand why you're concerned about it. It's a lot of debt. But you're getting for that debt an asset that is valuable. That
Thank you very much. You just say it right. We're going to have issue bond. We're going to be asset, land. We're going to be on the land.
Correct.
But my bottom line, we pay almost the cost of each acre is $3 million. Can we get the money back? Or to build the 35 affordable housing units, every developer come to city council, ask for 30 years of tax abatement. You know, they all kind of benefit they're looking for us. So when we give to them 30 years tax abatement, they not pay tax, they pay fee. In the meantime, what they pay fee pilot program, the amount of fee usually not cover municipal services, what we provide. That's the problem.
Okay.
So asset we get looks great, but it's not. That's
we are purchasing the property for an amount that is lower than the amount Honeywell received bids for when they marketed it before. So we believe that this project can be completed and that we will not harm the city's finances by doing this project. That is the asset. We, after studying this, believe the asset is worth more than we're paying for it.
So can't you put writing? And you notarize it, you're not going to harm the city of Jersey financially. Can't you do that?
Can I notarize
You're from,
it?
right.
I mean, I've told you, I've publicly told you what we think, and we've all talked about it. We could, I mean, we can lose money. It's possible to lose money. We are becoming a master developer of a large tract of land. 65 acres.
This is an asset that will be very valuable, and we have every confidence that we are not only going to make the city's money back and it won't fall on the taxpayer, but you're going to end up with affordable housing and you're going to get the best of both worlds. And the reason that this team has been assembled is because we have confidence that that's going to happen. This is a risk. You're going to have to evaluate how much risk you're willing to tolerate. We think it's worth it, and we think that it's going to be a boon to the city, and we hope that you'll agree. We've provided, I think, a lot of information, a lot of very convincing information, and if we can't convince you at this point with this information and this team, I respect that, but I believe that this is something that will be...
They're not arguing with you about this, right? They're very upfront about it. There's a risk. There's no guarantee. Like, and as Diana said, like, what's your tolerance for risk on this issue? For me, I'm willing to take a slightly higher risk with the outcome and the opportunity for a unique opportunity for extraordinary amount of affordable housing for working class families in Jersey City. I'm willing to make that bet. I'm willing to fight for it and to push and do everything I can to make sure that's a reality. So.
Who is the board members on the JCRA from the city council? Council president, and who else is sitting there? Myself. Yourself? So two?
Yes, sir.
Two people sit on the board of JCRA.
Two people, that's by statute. Statute requires, yeah.
So now I heard that from the council president and the sit on the board of JCRA, his opinion, because he attended the meeting, that you're as a chairperson, right? You're the chairperson, right? You're chairperson of the JCRA. So I heard his opinion, but let me ask then, Councilman Donnie Rivera, as a representative of city council, sit on the JCRA, what do you feel like then? What is your opinion? No, I'm asking you.
We're back to Michael Youn's court. This is what we keep on having here all the time. This is what we're here for. And we don't end this. We keep on making them up.
Please ask something respectful, don't know, we want to know.
This is the Michael Youn show.
Please fight.
I'm running for mayor
Because
in
the caucus meeting, through the caucus meeting, we discovered the issue, and we expose the issue, and we understand the issue.
Okay.
So when we go next Wednesday meeting, we can make a right choice. That's the purpose there.
Okay.
Our caucus meeting, I think that's not right.
Councilman, please, let's have.
Any of you from Jersey City originally, or Jersey City now?
What?
No.
That's all I want to know.
So now then.
Wait, no. Come on, Councilman, we gotta. You don't even have a question in there. It's not even like, there's not a question in your statements.
Don't even follow it now.
Don't even bother.
I need you to explain for me.
Don't even bother with just
What's
myself.
on your notes, and then versus the bond, and so you're saying there's two different ways to approach this?
No, so we're going to stay in short-term financing because it's easier to pay down our debt. If every year it comes up, we can pay some of it down. So if we issued, say, $105 million this year, and we sell land over the course of the year, and we bring in $20 million, then we just need to redo $85 million. But if we issued bonds right away, it's much more difficult to pay.
Short-term financing is a one-year note?
1 year note.
$105 million.
In my example.
Sell a tranche for $105 million, is that what we're looking to do?
We would sell enough to purchase the property, which is the 90 million, do the demolition, which is the 6, and have some money to carry us through the year so we don't have to borrow any more during the year. So the first tranche, right, so the first tranche would be somewhere in that, we'll figure it out for sure between now.
Tranche would be what?
The first tranche of money we would borrow, the 1 year note, would be somewhere in the $100 to $105 million.
Not property value. So, okay, I'm having this conversation. So the first tranche could be up to $105 million sold? Of note.
To buy all the land, which
Right.
costs 90, to demo the building, which costs 6, and to have some of our money to begin the infrastructure improvements. We won't borrow any more.
But then when do we have to repay that one-year note?
So at the end of the 1 year, you roll it over into a new note.
To a new note?
Right. And you can do that again, and the city does this regularly, and you can do that regularly. It's easy to access the market. It happens very quickly and swiftly. And
What's the rates of that?
So every time you go into the note market, you do the same drill. You go out to the entire investment community. You publish a note. We get in all the bids. We pick the lowest interest rate, net interest cost to the city, and we award the note to that.
So I'm not an expert in this, but I would
That's
think
okay.
that if it's a long-term note, like as opposed to one year rolling over, that you get better better rates over a long-term.
So the shorter the term, the lower the rate, generally.
The shorter the term, the lower the rate.
Right.
That's not how it works, really.
Yeah. So if you're going to lock my money up for a long time.
Not 100% of the time, but the vast majority of the time, the front end of it's called a yield curve. So it typically starts with.
We could do it 10. Yeah, we could do this often. So at the end of the year, we'll look back and we'll say, okay, we sold some land for $10 million. Now we don't have to roll over rate 105, we can roll over 95. And we can do that every year, and during the year we can do that as well. And the borrowing costs are a little lower, it keeps us in the short-term market. But there will be a point in time when we might say, let's take some of it and do long-term. Or we'll go through the NJIB, which is a long-term program. Or we'll go out and get some other form of financing in the long-term. But for now, I think the wisdom is to say in the short-term market, the rates will be low. It's a very simple market to access. It's a competitive process. You pick the lowest interest rate for the 1 year, and you're sort of done.
So it's a competitive process and not like the guy at Deutsche Bank who issues this, and I'm going to sell it through that person, even though the rate might be, I could get a lower rate somewhere else.
The underwriting community will bid on it, and then they'll sell to their customers. So you, customer, could own a Jersey City note, but it's an underwriting firm that bids to buy all of them. So I mean, this is Mike's world in mind, actually, but yeah. But it's driven to get the best rate.
The entire world is going to have the opportunity to buy the note. It's going to be a published notice of sale.
Affirmatively pick the lowest rate.
Yes.
Yes, everyone comes in on
Same
an
day.
electronic platform with a bid. And
Outside of our rules discussion here, is there something in writing in here that confirms that we go to the lowest rate as opposed to?
the law requires you
The law does.
to get the best. Yeah, I mean, in a competitive bid scenario, you can't take.
It's going to be, you can actually watch it on a computer. People will bid their interest rates, and the winner will be clear.
And the city does this every year for annual borrowing. There's no.
Council President, one question. So with regard to like the environmental conditions and Honeywell's role in the remediation around all of this, and they're done, complete? Is that, we still have work to do?
So they're mostly complete. There are certain areas where they're going to have to come in. The bulkhead, there's still some work. Along 440, there's some work. So there's areas that we know or are aware of where they're going to have to come in and still remove some chromium when the time comes to put the bulkhead, for example.
So with the acquisition, are we forfeiting their obligation in any way, or losing their obligation to continue to be responsible for any cleanup? Like if anything should come up that we find some contamination somewhere hidden in a little corner somewhere that we need cleaned up.
We work very careful.
Yeah.
Honeywell's obligations are unchanged through this process. We have our own obligations for historic fill that we're aware of and we would have had all along, but it's manageable and it's something we deal with in Jersey City all the time. But no, Honeywell is not getting off the hook at all on any of their ongoing, because they're going to be, for example, treating the groundwater in perpetuity. That never. So Honeywell will be in this site responsible for as long as we're all alive.
Okay. So, other questions? Yes.
And when you see I asked the same question as the last time. $20 million cost of the bond. This is a top of $170 million. Well, $170 million that includes $20 million cost.
That's for architects, that's for engineers, lawyers, financial advisors.
And it's a not to exceed number, it's just a plug number. We don't expect to ever get close to that, but it's
$20 million. $70 million. That's my question.
Yeah, and we're borrowing interest costs for 2 years as well, because there's a period of time here where we're attempting to generate the initial revenue, and the desire is not to have the city's budget be harmed during the period of time when there's no revenue. So we're borrowing the interest initially for the first 2 years, so that the first time there's a potential payment to be made is in year 3. And hopefully by that time we've already sold off parcels of the land, so there's cash in the city coffers to make payments as the bonds start requiring payments.
So my question is very simple. It costs $20 million. Will be top of the $170 million or $70 million included. Include $170 million.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your patience. See you tomorrow.
Do you have a question for me on the other issue?
Which issue are we talking about? Yeah, can you hang around for that, just in case something comes up there? Yeah.
So, I guess Pat's going to talk about the DPW stuff too. That includes the ordinance about the enforcement division.
Yep. Okay, everyone. We have Director Stamato here with Steve Miller on a whole host of DPW-related items. Let's start with the ordinance. 3C. It's an ordinance amending and supplementing Chapter 3 of the Municipal Code, eliminating the divisions of automobile impounding, demolition and graffiti removal, and creating a new division, the Division of Enforcement. Director Stamato, would you like to speak to that and then take questions?
Right now, as you know, first of all, good evening, everyone. As you know, we've been consolidating different operations in DPW. One of the operations that we would like to see standalone would be the enforcement division of DPW. That would be for solid waste and recycling. What's happening is that department is growing in a number of ways, between illegal dumping, just general litter, people dumping in lots, besides the enforcement of both recycling and solid waste. We're using existing manpower. That department also has grown up to the point where it's roughly about 21 individuals in there. How it ever became part of DPW, or let's say not how it became part of DPW, but as far as the sanitation end was concerned, I really don't know. I think it would have more teeth if it stood on its own. There's other agencies that we can work with as far as training that would afford us, if the opportunity. I think we have more avenues to get more of a bang for our buck by having this division come to light. There are projects that we're currently working on, whether it's on Columbus, whether it's with the schools in Jersey City. I think that would be more of an enforcement type of scenario versus an actual operation where drivers go out and pick up material, that stuff. The other thing we're also working on is presently we're in a training process with our enforcement, our night people, to basically enforce the contract with the contractor that we have in place right now. That was one of the keys that made me take a look at this and decided that we need to consolidate, eliminate some divisions, and also create another, I refer to them as divisions, but really it's department, I guess. But that's the way I'm looking at it. And I'll open myself up for any type of questions you want to ask me in reference to this. Well, what we're doing is instead of enforcement division, let's call it code enforcement. That would be number one. Number two, we're looking also to work with the legal department to strengthen what we have in place now, citywide, as far as illegal dumping, just general enforcement alone. This department would be a standalone. Standalone. It would still be part of DPW, but it's a division of DPW. Whereas right now it falls under the solid waste division. And that, to me, is a little bit of a conflict because they're out there with trucks picking up garbage. They're out there managing, they're involved with street removal of snow, things of that nature. I feel this department should really stand on its own. Not department, division.
Robinson Ridley.
It'll be under DPW. Yes, but it'll be like it would be sort of similar to the division of neighborhood improvement. I haven't decided. That's going to be an interview process. I'm sorry.
Robinson, Ridley,
Okay, now, I see the mailroom won't be a part of this department.
I'm sorry?
I see the mailroom.
Well, that,
And I see.
see, that's what I'm trying to, that's what I'm referring to.
Too, so.
Yeah,
where
there's
will
going to
they
be,
fall?
there's going to be a number of changes. The mailroom is going to be on its own, okay? Because what we're trying to do with that is we're trying to tweak that too, to get more efficiencies out of the mailroom. So my concern tonight is to look at the code go from not enforcement, but inspectors, sanitation inspectors, to a code enforcement scenario pertaining to both solid waste and recycling.
So then they will be responsible for the mailroom and the Bethune Center. So based on what you're describing to me.
No,
how
that
they-
is, no.
What
You're looking
I'm-
at,
what I'm-
the Department of Public Works the mailroom is underneath Department of Public Works.
That's under the Department.
But not under the division of, the Division of Enforcement.
I mean, like, that's why I'm getting.
No, that's unchanged.
Because they.
That's unchanged, but it wouldn't be part of this code enforcement.
This is, what you see here is the entire DPW section of, and only the things that are crossed out or, right, crossed out is removed and underlined is new. So everything else that's just unchanged. So mailroom is still there just directly under the director.
The mailroom will be under the director as it is now, along with the Bethune Center.
So everything that's crossed out is now moving to the new division? Is that what we're saying?
That's right, correct. Yes.
The whole idea for the new division, no, that's not moving over to the new division.
The whole department.
This is everything, yeah, it's the whole code.
They gave us the whole DPW code.
That's confusing.
I know.
It's very confusing.
I didn't realize.
Like I said,
Yes.
I don't know.
That's why I'm like,
Hold on, Robinson.
I'm sorry.
Bogiano.
go ahead, I'm sorry.
Good afternoon, Eric. Will it need more training?
I feel yes.
So how will be responsible?
Working with the DEP and the Enforcement Division with Department of Environmental Protection, along with the Hudson County Improvement Authority.
Now, who is in charge of, I guess, giving out the summonses now? Like, who's the head of the
Right now,
department?
you have Frankie Lamp, who's a director of solid waste, and you have, basically, that would be it.
Now, when you said code enforcement, was this something with the building department as well? Will they merge or?
Not at this, no, no. If, what happened a while ago, I had made a suggestion with the code enforcement department for the building, saying, look, we're going on, let's say a residential, we get a complaint in reference to a resident who basically has garbage piling up in their yard. We go, as we're going there, what happens, that they also have a broken sidewalk, or they have, their porch is under construction, it's not secured properly, they don't have a building permit. I had made a suggestion, meaning that we have the people that are going out there well, let me start this first. As long as we have the people going out, doing inspections for solid waste and things of that nature, you know, if you come across something like that, then we would be able to assist. They're still thinking about that. We're not looking to do that. It was just basically a suggestion, because if we're there, they're not doing anything with it. And what's happening is a lot of broken sidewalks, which should be being repaired, are not being repaired. So we're looking at that. But right now, this thing is only, this department or division is only looking to do solid waste and recycling. That's it, and illegal dumping. Anything pertaining to that.
One of my questions. You don't know who's going to be in charge of this?
No, I mean, there's a number of people, but I'd have to go into a closed session to give more detail on that.
It would then fall under, it would still be under DPW. Would it fall under one of the associate
Yes, it would
assistant
fall under
directors?
one of the assistant directors, and that's who basically would handle it.
the assistant director would do it. And that would be.
Still an answer to the director, but still would be under the assistant.
I just want to know this, BA. This means that they will get an increase in salary? BA,
Who would get an increase, the assistant
if
director?
they, if you have to put someone over this division, correct?
Well, you're getting a little confused, because here's how it's going to work. You're pulling away other divisions, you're merging other divisions, you still have other directors and assistant directors. So in essence, I don't see a salary change. I do see a union contract that's coming up, which I don't want to really go into too much detail. This falls under that particular contract.
Okay, okay, so it wouldn't cause like an increase in
No,
nobody's salary?
no. In fact, I think the workload is going to be a lot lighter.
Councilman Boggiano? I'm very familiar with
This whole thing, Pat, you know, I worked for the city for years. I've been getting calls on this, and it has its pros and its cons.
I'm sorry?
It has its pros and cons.
Yeah, but you know what it is? I mean, I think it really needs to be cleaned up, because right now, if you look at it, there is, yeah, you know what, I can't go into detail, we'd have to go into closed session. I think right now, the way this is structured, it really needs to be cleaned up. And the only way I see this happening is by doing what we're talking about.
Yeah, closed session, I don't know.
Yes.
For real, because I really
Unless
don't.
it's personnel, we
I wanna know.
couldn't have a closed session.
What's that?
We couldn't have a closed session on this. Well, as
You
soon as-
saying, why do you want a closed session?
We don't need that, we just want the structure.
Because he's recording, I guess he don't want to say different employee names. That's
That's
why
what
he's
it is.
at the
Involves
closed session.
personnel.
That's the way it is.
So he says it involves personnel,
Right,
so we would have a closed session.
Okay.
Creativity.
that's just
No,
like
we're
if
not
we
even
have a court
creating-
case with employees, we discuss it.
Well, we have a union contract, and that's what I'm concerned about coming up into place.
So,
Well, that's different.
That's what, you know,
So
where
why
I
don't we
would
have
be
a closed
concerned.
session before the next meeting?
Yeah.
Let's get a resolution on this agenda.
'Cause I don't
Do a closed session before the next.
Yeah.
next-
I don't have a
Tell us.
problem with that.
Okay?
this is ordinance, so this is. This is your first ordinance. So still, we're not even creative that division for the code enforcement, and we talk of personal people, creativity doesn't make any sense, but it's okay. If the other council people want to do it, let them do it. But let me straight with a few things. This one actually I support 100% because over time to centralize enforcement and on the DPW. That's the increased efficiency government, we can save dollars, not only the time too, because if we train well, actually like a dual service inspection, the one stone kill two birds. So I'm supporting, but when we the way structure, we have to structure right. So now NID, I'm going to just make sure that if you see that the page 4, if we page 4, 3-7.1, Division of Neighbor Improvement, B-1. Page,
B as in boy?
yeah, B as in boy.
Direct the daily operations of all aspects of the.
No, B is what we're talking about, the 3-7.1, Division of Neighbor Improvement, and the B, like a boy, and the B-1. Direct the daily operation of the all aspect of neighbor improvement district from within the assigned neighbor improvement district. First things, Pat, Jersey City never created that neighborhood business district. It's not like a special input district, we didn't. If I ask you, Pat, how many neighbor input district in Jersey City, probably got no answer because we never created a district, you understand?
I inherited this when I came on board. To be honest with you, what I propose tonight doesn't, the only thing that's changing is,
I know that, so no.
okay.
So this one actually wrong word they put it in. But now, long story make sure, but now, we have NID, Neighbor Improvement, the Division of Neighbor Improvement. This is the most important role of the NID, actually enforcement was it. So now you take out from the enforcement portion of the NID, then whatever is the duty of a Division of Neighborhood Improvement, same things done by RIC already. So now we merging, then Division of Neighborhood Improvement should be dissolved there because those if you read it, describe that their duty and role, they already RIC provide. When they have a town hall meeting, community meeting, NID made person not attending, but RIC people attended. You know, so I don't know why we still keep that Division of Neighborhood Improvement. If you take enforcement power from the NID, they have no reason to keep the NID. That's number one. Number two.
Councilman, I just want to add something. That was taken away before, that was taken away a while ago, the enforcement. The only thing NID does, really, in all reality, is basically litter patrol or litter policing along a lot of your main areas.
It's like a police officer without ticket book, they're useless. So NID go on the street without ticket book, you know what I'm saying? It's just like a more likely.
Well, that's where they would call the new term, code enforcement, for solid waste and recycling. They would call that department like they're doing right now, and they would do the enforcement, because they're the ones that are gonna end up going to court. The people that we do have in DNI are basically, you know, policing they'll jump in on some lot cleanups, things of that nature. That's the way this has been geared when I came on board here for the city.
See, but.
So you're saying we don't need it?
We don't need it, because you take up the enforcement power for NID, then what is the sense of the department?
He's saying what's the sense, because RRC does what they do.
Yeah.
That's what he's saying.
What I'm saying is they never had the enforcement since I've been here.
I'm going to make it like NID.
Everybody's talking to each other, man. So like,
No, NID, when you created years ago, year 2000, the NID have enforcement power, able to write a ticket. And then, under the Hillis administration, because trying to save their dollars, they dissolved their NID at the time, and then several times actually I brought the issue to the mayor about time to bring the NID to pay concentrate quality of life issue. So mayor actually created NID without enforcement power. So I told the mayor, you create the NID without enforcement power, then what is the sense to create the NID? Council President?
Division of Neighborhood Improvement going to do in the aftermath of a reorganization?
What they're doing right now is
If this.
What will Division of Neighborhood Improvement be doing at that point?
Chances are, what's going to end up happening, it'll probably be merged into the sanitation end as far as your lot cleanups, things of that nature. That's what's probably going to end up happening with it.
We shouldn't be when you do merge together, increase efficiency, then another way to the division is a useless division should be dissolve that, please use a manpower for enforcement to then make a little, you know, that's one thing. And also,
I don't know that I would characterize it as a useless division, but I would say that there's a question there as to what responsibilities are, that this division will do without.
I'm sorry?
Without the legally sanctioned enforcement powers, what are their responsibilities in lieu of?
Basically, it would be what they're doing right now.
Which is what?
They're not doing any enforcement right now at all.
So what are they doing?
What they're doing is they're policing on your main roads, your west sides, your central avenues.
Policing. That sounds
Policing,
enforcement
picking up
like.
litter. They're not doing any enforcement.
Okay.
Since I've come on board, they've never done any enforcement. And they also do clean up to a small, not a small amount. They jump in and assist
Graffiti
along with the lot
removal.
cleanup, sanitation.
Yeah.
They do graffiti removal. So there's two. They also assist on stop and drop, NJ shovels, or JC shovels, excuse me. JC shovels. Well, once they get going, they shovel. No, that was the asphalt.
The code have provided them enforcement powers, but in application, we didn't do that. That's, yeah.
Yes.
In
We
reality,
failed,
yes.
yeah.
so
We
then,
failed.
Poor it was never implemented.
Right.
That's.
so then, and I do those kind of job, and I do the policing for the clean the garbage a lot fine. Then what is the division of sanitation? Why we cannot put those kind of work to sanitation, division of sanitation, to limit it with the one department? You know, so I couldn't understand.
So you suggested it was going to probably be merged with sanitation.
Correct.
So my suggestion.
And the sanitation does lot cleanup, so they would assist, and that would give them additional manpower.
Because that means you'd be coming back to us again with another amendment right?
Yes.
I don't know if we're ready to do that. I have a union contract coming up.
Oh, you got a union contract.
I don't want to throw that in there yet. Excuse me, I have 2 union contracts coming up, 245 and also 641.
We're not firing anybody, we just.
We're not firing anybody, but let me get through the easiest thing to do right now, in all honesty, would be to do this enforcement. It's something that's been in effect. Whether it was transferred from D&I over to sanitation, I mean, it's totally confusing. I think we're leaving ourselves open with a lot of the court cases that we do have on, going with the courts. By doing this, you're going to rename these people as far as inspectors. You're going to go to code enforcement for solid waste and recycling. And that kind of gives them a little more teeth, and then we're going to be looking to strengthen that department. When I say strengthen it, with different types of resolutions to further enhance their enforcement activities.
Was there any training, well, you probably won't know.
I'm sorry?
Was there any training provided for this department? Because they didn't do enforcement.
Neighborhood improvements?
Which one are we talking about? Now, if you're not talking about D&I, you're talking about sanitation. Again, Councilwoman, when I came on board, D&I was just doing policing, graffiti removal, and also assisting on a lot of the events, being the parades and festivals.
But they just never had the authority to enforce. So I'm saying, was we responsible to train them so they can enforce, or it was just never?
From what I understand, and I hate to be this blunt, but they didn't want that part. They only wanted to do graffiti and and litter. They never wanted to get involved in enforcement, and how it got over to enforcement, how it got over to sanitation was another thing. You know what? This is why, if anything, we need to have
a close.
We need to bring this to some type of.
I can see it. We do.
And you need to go through. We need to also go through every department.
Gotcha. Okay.
But what they wanted and what you decide, what you implement or execute is up to you, right? You're the director.
Yes.
So.
But that happened before I got there.
I know, but eventually you were there, and so.
Yeah. And then I saw.
Whatever they decide, even if they didn't want it, it's like.
It's that you would have D&I doing this, then you would have sanitation doing this. It was crazy.
Solomon?
Yes, sir.
This is for everybody at the table. I think in some senses, this reorganization can make a lot of sense for the city. But what I would love to see it paired with, and I don't know if we can put an ordinance or what, would be basically a set of policies around how we do code enforcement at DPW. Anything that, because you can be, my worry would be create division over enforcement, and because that's the only mission, it becomes extremely overzealous. And all of a sudden, people are getting slapped with tickets for the minors or the infractions. We're not trying to bill the average taxpayer out of their dollars. So, is there a way to kind of ask you guys to do it, or to put it into the ordinance and say there's going to be policies and procedures?
I would add that to the ordinance. I don't have a problem with that at all. I believe there is one in place.
Which I could get more than happy to get you the current one that they do have in place.
Policies and procedures you would be including in the ordinance, because generally under the Faulkner Act, enforcement and the policies that go into enforcement are usually an administrative function from the administration. So it could make sense in the ordinance, or it might make more sense as a document prepared internally to DPW and shared for input with the council.
Like the construction code manual?
Correct.
Yeah.
So
I think that's what he was
so honestly, the answer would be depends. Okay. Yeah, so Pat and I will work together, and we'll come up with something and figure out the best way to implement it, whether it be via ordinance or including the ordinance, or as a standalone policy within DPW with consultation from the council.
So let me ask this question, Pat.
Yes, sir.
So if this is effectuated, if this reorganization is effective, and the reorganization is on paper, functionally, is DPW doing anything differently in how it does its job? Or is basically the people who have been doing enforcement still doing enforcement, and we're just going to change the label on their door? Is that like what, is what it's going to look like?
We're taking it out of, not taking it out of, actually, we're taking it out and putting it under the director's department through the assistant director. Because right now, sanitation, if you look at what sanitation does, it gets kind of confusing. They're doing lot cleanups, which also D&I also does, so that needs to get rectified. And then they're picking up garbage.
Somebody else will be responsible.
Correct.
Without talking about names, but specifically
Correct.
somebody will have a
Correct.
specific responsibility.
And it'll be more, we're more able to get training between DEP and HCIA.
Making that change and changing that line of command, what is the ultimate impact for you on that? Like, what's the ultimate outcome?
You'll have a department that basically standing alone, and divisions standing alone versus being thrown into a sanitation scenario where you have them doing, you could pull one of the guys and put him on the truck. I mean, I'd rather have an inspector be an inspector, not drive a truck.
So right now, you get enforcement from some people in sanitation, some people in other.
Right, it's all over the lot.
Same people enforcing all the public works stuff in with one manager. Yeah.
You move the right direction through the organization for the DPW. We 100% support it, but just make sure that the NID, maybe in the sanitation, without enforcement powers, sometimes they have. And if NID to pay attention to cleaning, then they should go. They merge with the sanitation to improve them more.
No, I'm not going to do anything to detriment the service that we're getting right now. I'm looking to improve the service that the residents, are getting. I wouldn't do anything. I just not into merging departments. Trust me on that one. There's too much involved.
To see some sort of org chart?
Yes.
With the realignment and like how many employees are here, estimated, the line of command around all of that. And then ultimately, for this division of enforcement, like what are your first year outcomes that you're looking to achieve there, right? You can give me something around that that says.
Not a problem.
Yeah.
With the telephone numbers, the chart.
All right, I have to do that, because everybody has to be accountable.
Council person, you want to be accountable or just to you?
I have to be accountable. I have to be accountable to the council. So in turn, this department's going to be accountable right through, right up the chain of command.
Okay, let's go through the rest of your items. You got 10U. It's a contract to Atlantic Salt for the purchase and delivery of rock salt through cooperative agreement between the City of Jersey City and Hudson County. Our annual purchase of salt for the winter snow. Yeah?
That's correct.
If we, I guess two questions. One is if we hit the cap, worst case scenario, winter, what happens then? Like we went with 1.2 or something million?
If it goes up, I would probably come back to you, Councilman, and say I'm going to need more money because of a disastrous winter that we're experiencing.
We'll know, it's not like we're gonna.
We'll know right away. So far, keep your fingers crossed, we're doing good.
October. So the other thing was, my understanding was, not understanding, a couple winters ago, I know there was like a rock salt shortage on the East Coast. How good is this vendor? Do we feel confident that?
Very good. Very good.
We've had it for a while.
Not only have we been using them, but other cities have been using them. So no, we're pretty well set. Not to mention them, we could have a violent hurricane come in, and all of a sudden everything gets washed out to sea. Then we're going to have problems. But then we'll have other problems.
Between the times that happened, we've also established that facility to house a lot more salt.
Correct.
So that we have more reserves.
We've picked up at that point, if I'm not mistaken. Here again, it's before me. I believe you had one location. Now you have 3 locations that can handle quite a bit of salt.
And that was the winter of 2013-14, the first year. I remember exactly.
I don't want to think about it.
Issue that year. That was,
the one thing I do want to do next year is I really want to chase that calcium magnesium acetate. That product is phenomenal. It's been working. I had an interview with the NJ Turnpike Authority, and definitely we have to look at that, and that'll involve putting another tank in. We'll get twice the amount of effectiveness out of our salt, and it'll cut down the usage of our salt.
Okay.
If you would have went to that solution, what would that mean for our roadways? Would we have less repair
year over year.
Exactly.
Okay.
Believe it, our equipment will last longer. I wish we did this a number of years ago. The other thing is the roadways don't be taking as much of a beating as they are now because we're using brine and we're also using, the salt, and that just eats up our roadways. So effectively, we should see an improvement with that. The other thing that, believe it or not, is the residents, as far as rust or problems with their cars, you'll see less of that. The acetate kind of like neutralizes that.
Yeah. That last year we spent $900,000, and that we budgeted like $1.2 million petition. This is $1.2 million open contract, right? We purchased
the same contract.
Same contract.
same contract, but open end. So we just purchased the
As we go along, the max is the 1.2.
So now, last year we spent $900,000 because of there were less snow, or because of we had inventories, stocks we had. Which case was it?
No, the problem that we had last year had no effect on what we had stocked. We're basically at where we are right now. With this, we'll be in good shape. It all depends on what you're experiencing. If you end up getting, believe it or not, 6 inches of snow, it's a lot easier than dealing with ice and rain and sleet and all that. That eats it up like tremendously. So if they say that we're going to have a harsh winter, all right, and I hate to keep bringing this up, and I wouldn't even go into closed session on this one, but let's say we had a regular normal snowstorm and you're not dealing with the sleet and the rain, that kind of a scenario, you'd be better off than...
So how many tons of inventory we have? Current time.
we have roughly, I would have to say we have in stock probably about almost 3,000 tons.
3,000 tons? So 3,000 tons go for how much? Just 1 ton snow or 2 tons?
It all depends on the storm. I wish I could sit here and say, well, look, the storm's going to cost us. It all depends on what kind of weather we're dealing with. Again, if we're dealing with a lot of ice, rain going into ice, you're going to use salt. Now, the other thing I want to point out was with the acetate, it gives us the ability to go down to like lower than 20 degrees. It works, down to about 15 and things like of that nature. So that's a positive. Right now, we're just using salt and brine, and that's all timing issues. I hope I'm not confusing you, but basically that's all. I wish I could sit here and say, well, look, I project that we're going to use 800 tons of salt over the winter. I'm just throwing out a number. I can't do that.
Yeah, resolution authorizing the award of contract to Delta T LLC, doing business as Big Butt Fans for the purchase, actually it says Big Ass Fans, for the purchase, delivery, and installation of automotive garage circulation fans through the Buy Board Purchasing Cooperative for the Department of Public Works. That's almost as good as Dude Solutions.
It's a ventilation problem in our... Moving right along, I guess.
Big ASS fans.
All right. We bought it last time.
This is different.
This is different.
These are very large fans.
We purchased it, same kind of the big, so the family bought. I mean,
Only thing I can tell you is that I don't know what you purchased. I know that what we have is a lot different than what we're talking about. The things that we're asking for you to approve are a lot larger. They're like roughly, I don't know, 10 feet diameter plus.
that JCMUA, that the facility opened 2013 or 14? 2013, right?
2013.
13. And now past 5 years.
That's the
DPW,
that's anyway.
Yeah, so 5 years later, we need a big hand. Any reason we have to wait till 5 years to put in the first fan?
I don't know what happened and why they didn't do it from the start. The only thing I can tell you, if you go down there when we're working on equipment, and even with the exhaust fans that we do have in place, especially during the summer, it's just so hot, it's ridiculous.
Are these
It does.
fans exhaust fans, or they just to move the air fans?
No, we have, they actually, these fans circulate the air. A lot, what you have are exhaust fans, but you need something to circulate the air because of the heat that's inside that building in the summer months.
Those kind of items, they should be away for 5 years. To protect our city employee.
Again,
Those should be installed that 5 years ago.
I agree, totally agree with you. I don't know why they were not.
Okay. So are these like ceiling fans or like
Yes.
floor mounted?
No, these are, they originally had gotten floor mounted fans, and then they got the big ass fans that we're in the process of trying to get, which are totally, they're overhead fans, very large.
Okay. Let's go to 10-9. It's a contract.
Keystone Plastics for various sweeper brooms for DPW.
For the street sweepers, not push brooms.
These are the main brooms on the street sweepers that we're using presently.
What's the shelf life of one of these?
Maybe a month.
What, like, will it be done in a month?
Well, what do you mean shelf life?
I mean,
On
like,
the
if
machine
you-
itself?
No,
The broom?
They get
Yeah, the broom,
replaced,
yeah,
ab-
the
get
broom.
It all
replaced about once a
depends
month.
on how often you're using it and what type of down pressure you have going down and what type of material. Now, right now, we're going into the leaf season,
Sure.
so, we'll be wearing out brooms.
And are these like, do these go on the older sweepers? And
Yes.
We purchased some newer sweepers, correct?
Just one new
Just one. No, just
We
one.
only press, yes, we're still working on that.
So do we have that new one in operation yet? Or
Yes,
not?
it's been in operation, it's almost 2 years. It's phenomenal.
It's good.
Hey, wait, it's been in operation for 2 years, we have one and it's great.
We got one, yeah.
Okay.
And they use it every day.
They do.
I think some council person should start a street
No, I'm
sweeping.
telling you.
Yeah, try to make some improvements.
All right, Z1.
And how many actually is our model now? The all working condition?
Not really.
Not really. How many is it working on? How many is it
You're
working
down
on?
to basically 11, you're down to roughly around 11 to 12 of the old sweepers. The rest are down. And you're using the one, you have 3 decent vac type of sweepers. But on a daily basis, you're using 11. One little one. Yeah, we use it in all different parts.
Trash, as opposed to the old ones which take 2 cubic meters.
I'm sorry?
How many machines are working condition now?
Like I said, we have roughly, altogether, we probably have close to maybe 15.
15 machines are
It's just
working.
that the old machines break down a lot, so we're shuffling all the time.
Down lots.
Like every day.
Z1, award of contract to Schichtel's Nursery.
C1.
Schichtel's Nursery, a little easier, for the supply and delivery of trees to the Department of Public Works, Division of Park Maintenance.
Okay?
Well, the tree, last time, the tree has some kind of warranty, like 2 years. This one, but when I see the contract, they didn't say any warranty for their trees. I can find that anywhere they're gonna have like 2 years of warranty and so on. So that's why I feel comfortable because based on our experience, they plant trees in the city sidewalk, a lot of trees are dead.
Well, they planted them the wrong time of the year. They were planting into February of last year. That was part of the problem.
So now, the way the councilwoman say that, why we have to plant the wrong time of the year, number one. Number two, if we, so that the nursery place have warranty, how many trees we actually there replace the tree?
I'll get you that information tomorrow.
Yes, please, because we pay for that. then, okay?
Thank you. Thanks, Pat.
Pat, are you finished?
I don't think so. I think we have one more.
No, there's
10C2.
two more.
Two more.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
There's a copy. Z2?
10C2 and 10C3.
All right, you're buying vehicles. Z2 is both Winter Ford. One is for a Ford F-350 vehicle, and the other is for 5 Ford utility vehicles under state contract.
Correct.
That's Z2 and Z3.
Questions about Z2 and Z3?
So are we're getting rid of like some older vehicles or?
Actually, these are replacement vehicles for a couple of pickup trucks that had gone down last year during the snowstorm. These trucks have both coming in with plows and salters.
This is for the parking enforcement. Parking enforcement, yes.
But,
The Ford F-350 is for install.
yes.
Plowing and maintenance, yeah. The vehicle's replacing is a 98 or something like that, I think.
Just
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a
1998.
1998. That's the one that failed.
But no, okay.
When it, go ahead.
Because of that, that parking, we purchased that 5 Ford utility vehicle replaced go for Cushman's for street cleaning, division. Then this one replaced go for Cushman, small, tiny, 3 wheels, vehicle. But if you put your utility vehicle, how to write a ticket to put in the windshield? How do it work?
I missed
No,
it.
this purchase, we're gonna purchase a 5 utility vehicle, replace go for Cushman's parking enforcement truck.
Well, this is something that they wanted, and basically it was okayed by their director in reference to those Cushmans, yeah, that's what they wanted. We didn't, we bought them, but the problem is this is what they wanted as far as the spec and the design of the machine. It's a lot more efficient, I guess, to operate those versus like a regular pickup truck.
But it's not been replaced go for Cushman's though.
No, they're not.
That's not.
It's for supervisory.
Right.
This is a supervisor.
Right. This is what they drive, the supervisor.
They have the one truck that they're using for their lots, they have a lot that they depend on. And the chances of what we'll do with it is probably try to bring it over and have them do some stuff for us.
Well, they probably, they're doing 24-hour enforcement now.
Yeah.
Z2 right now? So, maybe you don't.
I'm getting confused.
They out there.
It's bad.
No, excuse me.
I'm sorry.
See, that's what I'm saying. Then they should be not say that for,
This is, okay, yeah. This
they should be, okay, you understand.
This is for, the Interceptors, they're SUVs. They're not for street sweeping, they're for other parking enforcement. These are vehicles that will hopefully very soon have license plate readers and all types of other technology to manage other parts of parking enforcement. For now.
Very much.
On this question.
Yeah.
So the first one is for snow removal,
Yeah.
as opposed
Of
to...
parking lots.
For parking lots? And so they handle it on their own, not your division?
No, it
Not your-
depends, no. If they run into a problem, then we'll try to help them. But they handle their own parking lots.
So as Public Works is doing the streets, Division of Parking is doing their lots concurrently with this one vehicle.
First one, 24 hours of property.
Yeah.
That's this vehicle, not to replace for Cushman to ticket, you know what I'm saying?
Not just, right, all enforcement, yeah.
All right? For that street cleaning. I just want to make sure. But thank God, you understand very well.
Small ones or?
They're Ford SUVs, Ford Explorers.
And so the
they're
readers... you said
license plate
license
readers,
plates?
separate technology we have to procure separately. This is how it is. So we could attach that onto these vehicles. It allows us to, instead of having to call in a license plate or write it on a list, then it just...
Who's using these? Enforcement officers?
Yeah, this would be enforcement, yeah. So they have vehicles now, but they have old Ford Explorers now, and a lot of them are,
So they go around in...
They also keep the boots in these vehicles too, the boots that they use to put on the...
Yeah.
That's why they can't put, you can only put a certain amount of boots on inside the Cushman. I think you can only put 2.
these are allowed to put like 5 or 7.
You've probably seen them, these vehicles around, they're white, they have, they're 2005 or so scores.
And those folks are doing enforcement.
They're doing yes, they're doing
Issuing
enforcement,
tickets.
either directed or just on patrol, and this will help streamline that when we get the license plate reader technology. With, Park Mobile, the new parking app coming is gonna help with enforcement as well, so they would manage that.
And these vehicles fall under the automotive division for like maintenance and
Yes.
and whatnot. Now, do you guys have I've had this conversation with Marty, but a vehicle replacement plan at this point, or where are you guys at with that?
Well, we're working on it.
So
The
what's
problem is
the
we're so
timeframe?
far behind on the vehicles that we have, so we're always constantly playing catch-up with what we have.
So what's your ETA on a vehicle replacement plan?
I think right now we're working with innovation in reference to putting in a computer system so we can best manage the fleet. We have roughly, 1,500 vehicles? And I know the police right now are interested in updating their vehicles. And once we get that going, then we're going to try to put a plan throughout the whole city for vehicles.
So you put a plan together after you do one?
The plan's in progress, basically, like, we're working at it, it's just a lot of vehicles, a lot of budget, a lot of that sort of stuff. Trying to understand exactly what we're gonna need and when.
Yeah.
Which has not been done for some reason for a while.
So we had vehicles scheduled.
So what's your goal to get to a timetable on the plan?
I would like to try to get them in like a 3 to 5 year rotation, depending on the amount of miles that each department is putting on their vehicles.
Timetable, get a plan. That we say we will know we won't be replacing vehicles. I mean, I hear from our police officers like
about a
this
year
is-
away time.
It could be a few, it could be a little shorter than that, but so we're.
No,
really-
I'm going to give you the worst case scenario.
Okay.
A year.
Okay.
We'll do it shorter, but I'm saying a year.
Also-
I learned my lesson once before.
We're procuring additional police vehicles, unmarked vehicles are the next purchase that we're doing right now, so, and some marked vehicles as well.
No vehicles?
So we got a lot coming. I don't know if it was on the council agenda, was it?
So I say yes.
Pat, have you received any complaints about the recycling, Broom Street?
Oh my God, yes.
I've been telling them to call you directly.
Yes, which is good. They have to, I think to do that, that would be great because we're keeping track of all that.
Well, did you get the one about the one?
Alden Avenue.
Telling the person to go F himself?
Yes.
So
I hope
I
they
think,
go
in
after.
fact,
We had a problem today, this morning, where somebody got annoyed because their material wasn't picked up, and they utilized one of the parks to dump off the material.
Yeah, the garbage collector, you understand, a lot of house has their outdoor, the cameras they have.
Yep.
So even though they pick up garbage at 2 o'clock in the morning, there were no pedestrian in the street, but cameras still working. So what happened Alden Avenue? Guys are very nice, pick up the garbage, dump it, and after that, half of the garbage can sit in a full, he just leave it like that, throw out the things on the street. He created a mess. So as I mentioned the last time when that their owner was here, every time they do that lack of service, when the DPW responds to correct the problem, we should be charged the way we clean that abandoned building, the lot, and the so-and-so. We should be charged for that service, because why? We pay the company, and we didn't get the service of what we pay for. It's not fair.
I agree.
The other thing I would like,
I totally agree. That's why we're pushing for that enforcement to go through and giving our code enforcement officers a little more teeth to basically start issuing summonses to the driver, to the lifter, to the company. We have to stop it because it's killing us. They're being paid to pick it up, and we go in and to clean up after them. It doesn't make any sense.
they were supposed to present to our city,
Yes.
including having their pickup people have the little
Lights.
illuminated hats. They're not doing any
They're
of
not doing
that.
anything.
Right.
Their turnovers,
you and I
for
go
whatever
back and
reason,
forth
is
about
very
this all
high,
the time, but-
and they're not following through what
When
they're
is
supposed
their
to be
contract
doing.
up?
They have another year, a little over a year and a half, roughly.
So why don't the DPW prepare next bid?
Right.
And when you print the request for proposal, there should be one of the article there if city have to responsible their mess, and we're gonna charge a certain amount of, we have to put in. Other than that, it never gonna collect. And the 2013, when we changed Western Management to this company, they say that we can save $2 million. And today, I didn't see any save yet.
Councilman, I can tell you, before this company took over, there was a clause in the bid where if it wasn't picked up within, a miss was not picked up within an hour and a half, then there was a fine that was issued. Now, why it wasn't in the bid, I don't know. This happened before me.
Who called it 1.5 hours in?
I'm sorry?
No, it's okay.
They have foremen and they have vehicles that are here all throughout the day and throughout the night, other than just picking up. They pick up the baskets, the trash receptacles, 3 times a day. So they have vehicles that are here, and they're running around picking up whatever they miss, except they don't get it all.
Okay.
That's not good.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Okay. 7:47,
Hey, we got one more item.
that was only 50 minutes in the chair there, Pat. 50 minutes.
We have Elizabeth Kane here with the Exchange Place Alliance. He has 10F. It's a resolution introducing and approving the 2018 budget of the Exchange Place Alliance District, Special Improvement District, directing the city clerk to publicly advertise the budget and schedule a public hearing, and directing the tax assessor to prepare an assessment roll of properties within the district based upon the budget.
So essentially, the budget is the same as approved last year, with some of the money being kind of filtered towards capital improvements. There's a lot of capital improvements that this board wants to get done along the waterfront, including green space parks, Colby Park, potentially Peninsula Park. There's a lot of big projects that we're working on to get out there. Exchange Place, obviously, York Street, potentially Grand Street. There's a lot of really great ideas. Maintaining Brenda Pier a little bit better, that sort of thing. So I think you all have the budget. I brought some just materials that we have, budget report, if you guys want to pass it around, or in our annual report. And it's just kind of highlighting, as you know, we were informed, last August. So we really got going, August, September. Obviously, we focused on a lot of cleanup. We had quite a bit of snow removal last year. We took on the snow removal around the PATH station that was often an ice rink. And really reaching out to the tenant base in the area to engage them and get their feedback. You need to look at it. It's just for fun. I brought 12 of each, I think. Some of them are just copies, some of them are booklets. I emailed this to everyone earlier today, too, so you can look at it at your leisure.
Okay. Did you have anything you want to say? I know you were already talking, but anything else you want to add, I guess? Did everyone hear what you said? Okay.
I really think we're just making a really nice impact down there. It's getting the attention it's probably needed for a long time. The constituents are really responding to it. We did a lot of it seems like a lot of small improvements, but they've been really noticed. We've painting light poles that are chipped, removing stickers, removing graffiti immediately, making sure the trash is picked up in a timely manner. It's very small things that make a very big difference to people and their enjoyment. We also bought seating for 1,300 people that's going to go along the waterfront. That's been really nice to see. We added some of it along at the end of Montgomery Street. We're waiting for some security improvements on the southern end first before we put them along the rest of the walkway. But it's been really nice to see kind of this community engagement of people coming out of the commercial buildings to eat lunch outside and people watch and engage with people in the area. It's been great.
Council members? Statue. And I'm gonna tell you something, Liz. Your SID, I don't know if it's the SID or it's the other people involved, have ticked off a lot of people in this city, and you're wrong. And I'm gonna tell you right now, when it comes to a vote in this city, you're gonna take a beating on it. And this administration should back off, because there's a lot of people out there that are really, really furious about what's going on. And, you know, I got nothing against you, Liz, I know you for several years, but what SID and Matt Calley and the other guy are trying to do, and especially now, you gotta, what the Irish Festival this past weekend should have been, I was at a thing, there was about 50 of them there, and they were all furious. They couldn't have the Irish Festival down there,
Are the festivals returning to the work for 2019?
only on the pier for certain people.
Okay, let's let Ms. Kane respond to that question from Councilperson Ridley.
Was that a question? Oh. It depends on when construction starts. If it starts along the park, there's been some security improvements that have gone on. There's been borings. There's lots of stuff going on. The PATH station also has some improvements that they're doing in the next 2 years. So it really depends on if it's safe for people to gather down there.
The only reason they want to take that is so they can have a turnaround for the hotel. Leave that exchange place alone. It's beautiful the way it is. It belongs to the people of Jersey City. It doesn't belong to Matt Calley or to your SID, Liz. And there's going to be a lot of problems.
We'll return if the construction.
Festivals. So I don't have that answer. What I can tell you is there's a lot of capital improvements that are on the books to be done in the next 3 years with us, and including the PATH and security measures and Sandy rehabilitation. So if I had to guess, I would think there's going to be a lot of heavy equipment down there in the next few years. So, excuse me?
That improvement, who made it? That you? Or the you?
We have planning on doing some. We have plans for some, and also the Port Authority is doing some security and flood mitigation improvements that are on the calendar.
James, you do that. After that, I do.
Councilman Solomon?
I have a couple questions before for Liz. It's more for us as a team. Is understanding the timing of all of this. So, can you walk me through the appropriate timing of when a SID budget is supposed to come before the council?
There's some factors, I guess, some of them submitted at different times. We like to separate them, so we don't, we could theoretically get every SID budget on the same day, and we'd want to separate them out so we don't have 7 or 6 public hearings all at the same time. So it's
En masse situation. We have, we do them, but this is a fiscal year.
Yeah, the funding is for the year. We don't have cash flow issues like some of the other SIDs do, so we can wait.
So when is it? So if we approve this budget, what does it cover?
So ours runs on a calendar year, so this is technically 2018 funding.
Okay, so for
It says fiscal year on your annual report.
It does. So there's been some confusion on our end because we're new. We were funded in August, and yours goes on a fiscal year. The bylaws that we have currently are calendar year. I confirmed that with our attorney today to make sure. So as of right now, we're on a calendar year. So technically, this will be funding 2018.
So, and the enabling ordinance is also confused. It lists a fiscal year, but also a calendar year budget.
I agree with you. I think that's something we need to address. Either way it is, it's fine. Yeah.
So I just want to be clear, if this gets approved, this is covering, Liz is saying it's covering the calendar year 2018. That's correct? Correct from your guys' perspective?
Well, it's not what the resolution says. So the resolution says
You have to change it.
2018, 2019 fiscal year budget, July 1st, 2018 through June 30th, 2019. So according to the resolution, it's a fiscal year. I don't know if we have to change that for next year or whether.
So it's possibly, I I think we are all fine with doing that. I honestly don't know why the bylaws were on a calendar year, because it makes me very confused, because we were funded in August. Either way, it's a year. You know what I mean? Like, we started in August, so it would make sense to be a fiscal year. I think we just need to change the ordinance that formulated it.
I don't mean this is like a.
It's fine.
Some of the follow-up questions, sorry?
I've looked at it.
Yeah, some of my follow-up questions relate to what time period we're talking about. So I mean, I personally don't feel comfortable moving forward until just as a unity, we figured out, are we on a calendar, are we on a fiscal year? So then we know when the next budget comes before us. Because if we just let it linger, I have worries about what that means.
I would go with the fiscal year that's on the ordinance, because to me that makes the most sense, because we were funded for a full year of 2017 in August. Would it make sense? Yeah. Yeah, that's fine. We'll do that. Yeah.
Okay, so we're saying that this is the fiscal year, so this will end in July or June 30th, 2019. Okay, and we're funding it through there. Okay. So then the subsequent budget, if I read everything properly here, would basically come before us in April of 2019. Is that correct?
Yeah, good.
Could or should. So
Yeah.
So the ordinance creating the exchange place date says the budget has to come before us before April 1st of the subsequent year if one fiscal year now.
Right.
I mean, it's not, I mean, and they passed this budget in April, so.
Yeah.
And this year we passed the budget likely in December, so you can have it in January if you want.
Okay, so. Okay, guys, good. Well, that's all clear. Good. And then this budget for Elizabeth, but also the administration. I mean, so if this budget was passed April 2018, so why is it coming to us in October?
I don't have an answer for that.
So we were spreading some of the
just
other
said
budgets,
that.
some of the other states were a little more urgent to get on, and we wanted to spread it out a little bit. That's, I think, really it at this point.
And if it is approved at today's or this tomorrow's council meeting, when would the public hearing be?
No less than 28 days from introduction. Because the tax collector has to do his job, then I have to send a letter to all of the members, constituent members, advising them of the public hearing, and send registered mailings out to them at least 10 days before the public hearing.
Okay.
So that 28 days gives the clerk and assessor time to do their jobs.
Okay, so likely would be 2 meetings from now?
Right, 28 days.
Okay, right. Okay.
The second meeting in October.
Let me ask one more question, then Michael, and then I have a few more going on. But so with the capital,
The second meeting in November. Oh, wait.
What, and legal question was, like, what sort of flexibility exists if we pass the ordinance? So let's say, you know, we pass the resolution with this budget, and it lists a certain amount for Exchange Place and a certain amount for Four Corners. Is that, you know, if the CID decides, and the board says, hey, you know, 2 months later, we have decided a reallocation is appropriate, and we want to reallocate some of those capital funds. To what extent is that allowed under their board allowed to do that versus us in what's written in the ordinance?
I don't know. I would imagine that as these budgets are submitted, if any alterations to the budget that would deviate would normally come before the council to be updated.
I would have to check if there's
Okay.
a certain percentage, which is likely.
I'm guessing there's a reason why. I guess there's a reason why the budget comes before the council. So I would imagine any significant deviations would probably have to come before the council to verify. I will check on that. But I'm guessing there's a reason why the budgets come before the council.
Okay.
So there would be another resolution that would come before the council to approve the final budget, correct?
And the assessment roll, and not until November 20, because we moved up to November council meetings because of the League of Municipalities.
We also submit an annual audit, which the one from last year will be done shortly. Probably in the same meeting.
Can I anticipate something you might say there? Which is, I'm guessing you'll want to say that a final adoption of the resolution includes some sort of language that any deviations to the budget would come back before the council.
Yeah. You research the legality of it, that'd be good.
That's with every SID,
Yeah.
with any SID. It should be.
Yeah, Michael, you had some questions, I'll come back.
Yeah, can I know? Anybody else?
Councilman
No,
Young,
go ahead.
Bogiano, anyone else?
Who do I go first?
No, go ahead.
Okay,
Councilman
so
Young.
I'll take yours too. All right. Good job. But now, let me ask you a few questions. What kind of surplus do you have in 2017, end of 2017?
We have about $1.2 million left.
Then let me ask you, then what is the reason you not show up July 1st to 18 and the June 30th, 19 this budget? Why did you not show up the surplus what we have here? You should put it. Do you members know that your total budget $3 million?
So
and
that
you almost
surplus-
spend half.
Right, that surplus was voted on the board to go into a capital improvement, kind of bank, right? Because the improvements that we have on, planned out for right now are upwards of $12 million. So that's where that's going.
So it's a different surplus and the reserve is different. So $1.2 million reserve for what then?
Capital improvement.
Capital improvement. So you reserved the $1.2 million for
And
reserve.
I'd have to check on that number for you. to quote.
Yeah, I'm gonna make sure that, because later on, don't change the word, okay? So surplus and the reserve is different, you understand, right? So you have $1.2 million reserve, you say, right?
It's
For
going to be
capital improvement.
transferred into a reserve account for capital improvements.
For capital improvement.
Correct.
So now, then my next question is that you reserve the $1.2 million for capital improvement. What is the capital improvement you plan to do? You cannot just reserve the capital improvement. Do you have a come up plan? What kind of?
There's plans currently being worked out for Exchange Place. There is pedestrian enhancements on Christopher Columbus Drive. We had some work to do along the boardwalk and Grundy Pier. We have ideas for and long-term plans for the Colgate Park when that starts going again, which it is, I believe. Four Corners Park is another thing we've partnered with the Paulus Neighborhood Association to help spearhead that. Potentially Grand Street could be another community area. Right now it's not used and there's no excuse me, driveways or anything on it, so it's just kind of a dead-end street that could be used for that. So there's many, many capital improvements. This board and this SID specifically is very focused on improving the entire area with capital improvements.
So those kind of items, those kind of stuff. See, when you do that, the city street, Grand Street is a city street,
Yep.
to order to make a park, you got to have some kind of agreement with the city of Jersey City.
Correct.
You cannot just do it.
Well, I just said it's a long-term plan.
Long-term plan, right? So
Correct.
That's what it is.
There's
Then what is it?
It's community driven.
A long
So,
list.
coming in and saying,
Yeah.
I'm sorry?
It's community driven. The Paulus Association has been trying to do this for a while.
And especially, thank you for that.
Can I cut to the chase, because I don't want to like. So, I think the question that's being asked, around all of this, Councilman, if I respectfully, are you intending to divert any of these monies to the Exchange Place and the statue, and possibly around the relocation or whatever that might, and improvements to that area? Potentially. Would that still have to come back to the council for approvals?
Well, is there anything in the budget currently for the moving of the
There's not
statue?
any specific line item for the movement of a statue, specifically.
But could the reserves and capital improvement that are allocated there be allocated for that purpose?
If it's part of a capital improvement that the board approves, potentially.
So can I jump into,
Yeah.
that gets to this budget question. So I read last year's budget. It didn't include the capital surplus, but it did include an extra $3 million in assessment and $2.3 million in spend. So there was $700,000 that was unaccounted for. And obviously, what Elizabeth is saying is they obviously didn't do the full spend, so there's an extra $500,000, so there's the $1.2 million. At no point does that come back to us, so it isn't in this budget to say, at least I didn't see it, to say that there would be a surplus capital fund.
I can tell you, if you don't mind me interrupting, the banners and wayfinding were a $525,000 line item in the 2017. That's not something we've done, but we are working on it. There's a company that we've retained to do that, so that was something that just timing-wise didn't work out. That's throughout the entire district.
What I mean, sorry, I don't mean it in the sense of like, obviously a budget changes, but What I mean is I'm saying at no point has the council authorized the creation of the surplus capital fund, and particularly in the broad category of can be spent on any, any capital spend. And I find that concerning because I think we have a budget. This is when we had this debate back in February around getting on, who gets on SIDS. One of the things that we talked about as a group was that it comes before the council. So even if you weren't on the board of a SID, that was the chance and the opportunity to review. So, you know, I have expressed my personal concern about the creation of a large capital fund that hasn't come before the council.
What I can say about that is the initial budget was made with no experience in it. We've been in a year. There was much lower insurance costs than anticipated. There was much lower wages, you know, doing this, you know, essentially. So there's many ways to surplus which we want.
When I see the budget, years ago, if we put in the budget like this one, City Council never approved that. Let me tell you, if you see the item 110, the reserve the capital improvement, exchange place $700,000, Four Corner Park $100,000, and they should put you another items. There's a reserve the capital improvement 2017 so much. They should print it clear. They have no transparency in the budget because if I'm the members, if I know that they have $1.2 million surplus or reserve, then I want to know why you collected $3 million from the members other than less than $1.2 million. You know, see, $3 million was it?
All the board members are invited to and notified, and we have an audit.
It's sort of like our capital budget now, where if it wasn't for something you know spent that year, it's still there for the next year.
This is really the point. The point is not did they spend the budget properly or whether they have open meetings. The question is the creation of the capital surplus fund has never come before the council, nor is it in this budget. And what I've heard from Corporation Council, although obviously research can be done, is that it would need to come before council, right? That
You have to research it.
I read it.
Because, I mean, this is
wasn't
the first
a separate
time-
fund that's being, it's just unspent.
It's unspent money that we can then put in a reserve, because we don't want it sitting in a bank account, right? That's not safe for anyone. That could be used for capital.
So what we're saying is you could inflate the cost of a budget, right? You could not fill each line, and then you could, without coming back to the council, then remove all that money, put it into a new budget, and then spend it without having to come back to the council for authorization of
Thank you very much. Right.
Right? So that I'm not saying this was an intentional plan. What I'm saying is that's, as described, that is the current impact, right? To create a capital fund without having it been approved in either the 2017 or 2018 budgets.
What's in the 2018?
Not the 1.2 million surplus, right? The 2018 has a 3.1 million raise and a 3.1 million spent. So everything's accounted for. In this, you know, if you were obviously, that's the argument, I think, and that's the crux. For me, and I'll explain in a second why it's important to me, but that is.
So the budget that we approve is essentially restricted dollars, right? Is that accurate? Yeah? So by not spending it, is it being suggested that it's now unrestricted dollars, right? And I think that's what Councilman Solomon, it's not the council's intention to have it become unrestricted at that point. And so legally, we want to make sure that that's the case. For this SID and every other SID as well, right?
Is that 2017?
We don't know that. We don't know that.
Listen to me, because, no. I can say that. Take a look at, I can say that. But let me take this one. Because of 2017-18, we see council approved that $3 million. And you guys only spend the $1.7 million, $1.8 million, still $1.2 million left. That means, as when I see that the members as pay SI tax, number one, you guys over budgeted. Number two, you not spend the way you're supposed to spend it. You know what I'm saying? And SID just follow the same rules and regulation that any government, municipal government to follow. If you change any 220% of the budget you have to change, you got to come back to city council to prove. But if we see that $3 million to $1.2 million, almost 40% you not spend it, and you guys never come back to city council ask to prove. And without knowing public and this council, you save this reserve the fund $1.2 million. That's wrong. And that $2 million you should show to this project, reserve the capital input of $1.2 million. You gotta show this budget. Not only this council, your members should know that. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, just find out exactly how it's supposed to be done. That's what we need to do. And we need to know that
As a
tomorrow.
council,
We need to know that.
as I the president for 20 years, I do the central administration. Any budget is more than change 10 or 20%, you know, they have to come back to city council, prove, that's the rule.
But they're not spending. Get to collect the $3 million of taxpayer. Doesn't matter they're SID member or not, they're taxpayer. Collect the $3 million. You guys only spend the 1.8, $1.2 million, reserve them without knowing, and then now short our budget. That's wrong.
Let me just ask a different question. On any public, because again, I think we're just kind of dancing on, I'm not trying to ambush on this, just, I think we're dancing around the issue again, which is just, if there is improvements to be done on public properties, meaning the exchange place and where the statue is located, do those improvements, the hiring of the contractors or any work to be done there, still have to come through the city council for
It
authorization?
requires an agreement for someone else to do the improvements. That would
Do
go
we have
through
any
council.
such agreement in place right now?
Nothing, no.
Okay.
Nothing yet.
Compromise. Instead of bring up the,
No,
okay, all right.
You know that.
Yes, I know that. Instead of do this one, as your director, can't you provide itemized detail the budget? So in other words, if you pay, what are they called, administration for 280,000, how much administration? You pay 208,000, okay, let's just say almost $300,000, then show to us
she'll give it.
$300,000 for executive to so much, and street maintenance, how much you pay, how many hours in a per hour. Give us some more itemized detail.
Every
So we know.
SID did that.
Yes,
She will.
all SID do that.
Okay, she will.
All right, you can't you do that?
I mean, because I don't want to know if we tackle it because we got the statute issue. I just want to make sure we fair. That's what we're supposed to be.
So please, can you
Okay.
provide us?
Yeah, if I can just get a copy of all the other SIDs, one that you like, and then I'll copy it that way.
Very clear.
Who will provide that
Give her yours.
for Elizabeth Kane?
Give me your format. How
I
you
know,
do
I'm
the
case,
SID.
so I'm.
Elizabeth, call the David, ask for articles detail. The business of
Give
Brian.
him his form, please.
It's the model.
Because we want to make sure we're being fair.
And the number
Also
two,
how we feel.
no, I'm looking for fair too.
Yeah.
So number two,
And their last audit, let me see that too, so I can
In
compare
the
it.
last order.
yes,
Okay.
number two,
Elizabeth, number two, gives us $1.2 million. Last year, actually, how much, $3 million, how much you spend? $1.2 million. Which one spend, which not, I understand?
I told you the audit will be submitted in November that will have everything on there.
Actually, those SID, they not put your new budget till they finish the audit.
I don't, you guys have any audits?
I don't think so. I don't think that's that. Like I said, we don't want to be first.
The ordinance will last for 4 months for the audit, so it's written in the ordinance.
Okay, so let's give us some information.
Can I ask you more questions? So, can you describe the traffic calming measures that were described in the budget?
The idea is to extend the Path Plaza 30 feet into Christopher Columbus. Right now, if you're familiar with down there, it's kind of like a large turnaround. We have basically huge buses from condo buildings coming in, doing K-turns. Currently, the crosswalk is at the level of the street and the same color, so it is very challenging to see. So essentially what the idea is to extend the plaza 30 feet in, do a very large speed bump that it becomes a 20-foot wide crosswalk, and steer people in through planters and stuff to this big, large crosswalk, and then it will also slow. So really the only traffic going in would be hotel drop-off and loading.
Certainly not a safe space.
It's not safe at all right now.
Improvements there, much needed. And is that, do you think that covers largely the 50K that you budgeted, or did you have other things you anticipated as the traffic?
What do you mean the 50? No,
Because they did
that's
the
within the capital improvements.
Right, so, yes, that's the 50K in capital.
Traffic calming otherwise would be potentially partnering with the city to do additional bump outs and things of that nature.
Is that a separate line item outside of the capital improvement, or is that?
What?
Is that a separate line item outside of the capital?
Is what a separate line item?
The bump outs and that kind of work.
Did you say, you said the traffic calming?
The traffic calming I
For
saw was in the
50,000?
capital improvement under 50K.
So you describing what you're gonna do in the capital improvement
Right, and
based
then-
on
Oh,
the
no,
okay.
the Christopher Columbus Drive
Yes.
is within the budget of the capital improvement of Exchange Place.
Okay, got you. It's in the Exchange Place one.
It's all,
And so then the extra 50K is for the
It's
bump
other
outs and the-
places.
And any streets in particular that you have
none of that,
focused on?
we didn't have to do a study, we haven't done that yet.
Okay, got it.
I know they're asking for them by the park.
Yeah, it'll probably be partnership with the city.
Yeah, you guys have a
Get
plan.
feedback from people. I'm sure you do too, of where we need to target and that sort of thing.
For the clean team, like how, obviously it's a big complaint in Owen Grundy Pier, how have operations been? What complaints have you heard about sort of trash pickup on Owen Grundy and that waterfront area?
They've been doing great. We're 7 to 10 every day. There's probably the largest issue that we're having is food trucks illegally parking and using the garbage specifically on the weekend. We have a lighter service on Sunday. We have 1 or 2 guys on Sunday. There's a regular rotation of 5 specific food trucks that park illegally. They don't bring their own garbage cans. They don't bring their garbage with them when they leave. We're trying to enforce that as much as possible, catching them. But generally, the garbage cleanup, I think, has been going very well. Sanitation has been great. Every once in a while they miss a pickup and they come right back out and do it if we email them. We've also, what's been really interesting for me to notice is we use See-Click-Fix quite a bit. And it's kind of encouraged other people to use See-Click-Fix. So, we're getting a lot of stuff done in that sense, which is nice, to do some more community engagement. Ideally, would like to increase the clean team next year.
For the capital improvements, for the 4 corners, it lists 100,000. What do you intend to do with that 100,000?
Right now, the way the plans are, there's basically a minimum of a $50,000 deficit. With the way the plans are, very simple kind of cleanup plans. If we include a playground, et cetera, on the southwest corner that's next to PS 16, there's about a $250,000 to $300,000 deficit. So it would assist in that.
So it basically covers some of the plans, but it's not the full amount at this point.
Ideally, we can fund the whole park and finish it all at once. There's been talk from the association to do the 3 and then leave the 4th for kind of a phase 2. I don't think that's a great idea. It's very hard to motivate everything, yeah.
And what are the current state of plans for Peninsula Park?
There are none. We're waiting for the state. We have to negotiate with the state.
Yeah, it's kind of hard.
I mean, the current state of plans in my brain are to, put riprap or something around it. I was just down there overlooking it, and it's deteriorating daily. But I think we are meeting almost monthly or bi-monthly with all these kind of ideas. We need to talk with the state about Colgate Park and Peninsula Park. The city nor private owners own any of that land, so it's a little bit up to a group effort.
Is there like a main contact point at the state right now?
There's 2. There's the Army, there's the Veterans Affairs, owns Colgate Park, and then the Army Corps of Engineers, I think, is doing some work on that. And then there's the DEP owns Liberty State Park, and the Army Corps of Engineers, I think, is involved in that with the deterioration of the shoreline.
Is there like a specific person for each of those?
And I think it's constantly changing, really.
Yeah, I think we had my department had a contact trying to undergo an MOU with the Department of Veterans Affairs. That person has since changed. We actually didn't hear anything back from that person. So actually we're trying to resurrect that relationship to hopefully get an MOU in place so that the city can, rather than having a park that's deteriorating, it's owned by the state, it's a park that will be operated by the city and improved so city residents can use it. So that's the intent, but yeah, for whatever reason that the contact we had has not gotten back to us. Yeah, which appears to be par for the course, unfortunately.
And then, right, there's no ongoing with Municipal Park, there's no ongoing.
There's been discussions with DEP, there's been discussions with the superintendent specifically of that park. That's like, you know, it's kind of the initial stages. Obviously, first we're focused on Christopher Columbus, kind of the center of that, but that is definitely on the list. And obviously, it's going to take a lot longer because we're dealing with another government agency, so.
One of the, going back to the issue with the statute, one of the issues that came before us when we were discussing the York Street potential move was who was going to fund it. And Brian articulated a verbal commitment that the city would not put any resources into that, but that was not but wasn't subsequently provided by anyone from Exchange Place. And I'm wondering, you know, as obviously you don't speak for the board, but as the executive director, you know, what public commitment can you make on funding a potential move of the statute?
Is there's a commitment to do many capital improvements along the entire waterfront. That is an additional park. Obviously, there's things going on, litigation and public voting and such, that we're not committing money to anything that potentially won't happen, so. Okay.
Okay. The only thing I will just add to the council, and this is why I think the capital fund is so important. To me, it's just, and Brian and Elizabeth spoke to it, but I think it is important. The Paulus Hook community, if you ask them, you know, what is the priority, they'll say one of two things. They'll say Peninsula Park, which obviously there's a state issue, and then they'll say Four Corners Park. Above and beyond waterfront parks, which are nice, but I think there's a majority sentiment for that. And so I just want to make sure that Four Corners Park it moves forward. And there's, you know, there's plans here, but yeah.
What I can say about that is Four Corners Park, only one corner was in the special improvement district when it was originally approved. They've made a commitment to include the rest of it, which makes it us also responsible for the maintenance. And the plans are nearly done. There's a very strict timeline. There's some monies that are committed, $350,000. There needs to be approvals by the end of the year. This has been a 12-year project for the Paulus Hook Neighborhood Association. I think we've gone great strides to get an actual working plan done. The only meetings we've had are with, I think there was an issue with historic preservation. So we have not had any meetings without a historic preservation officer there in order to make it efficient and ongoing. They are voting on it, I believe, tomorrow, their board, the plans, as they are. And then we need to go for approvals almost immediately. I mean, really, that should break ground before anything.
And just making sure the funding is there for it.
The funding is there for it if we can get the plans approved before the end of the year. So I and my board took that on to spearhead so that we could actually get that done.
Okay. No, but just we want to make sure that, just make sure that the information what we ask, provide the people tomorrow council meeting, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, definitely, and I just ask that you're fair with everyone.
Right, that's all. Just treating this.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Elizabeth. All right. From the top, I made a prediction we'd be done before 9.
Yeah, well,
So I want to keep that.
let's go. Just don't stop
There's a Yankee
me.
game.
Don't stop me. Don't stop me. 10A is a special item of revenue. We're accepting grants and including them into our budget. B is a companion to the ordinance that we have for the special emergency appropriation. And this is for the issuance of special emergency notes of the city. Yes.
So we talked about the last caucus about our plan that we're going to put in place to deal with this in future years. So even though we don't have a final plan for you, we are developing a plan that includes both an option to defer some of your payout over time. One of the reasons why we don't have a finalized plan is that there are some legal opinions we're waiting for certain things, such as like if there's a limit on how many years you can defer these payments and how long you can stretch them out. But we're also going to include something that allows employees who are close to retirement to get a payout sooner. So like, for example, after 20 years, they can get a portion of their sick days paid out in advance. So it's not a big hit at the end of their employment. So there's what you'll notice is that a lot of the payouts are police and fire related and a lot of union employees. And so we will have to go through union negotiations with all of the unions to see if we can fit this in certain ways. We will start with management employees, but even though we can start there, that's not the biggest amount of the dollars that's impacted here. So we're working on it, we're committed to it, we're moving as quickly as we can, considering union negotiations and also waiting for legal opinion on things.
They can't turn.
There is now. Years ago, there was not, and so that's why we have people retiring now with 498 sick days. But now you can't do that anymore. So yeah, this is probably like we're probably not going to go. It's hard to say because I guess you can't. It's hard to ask people when they're going to retire. So we can't really forecast exactly when everyone's going to leave. But we are likely not going to see a number this high again because a lot of the employees that have been here for a long time have been retiring, and it's a lot of newer employees subject to different rules. Yeah.
Before retire, anybody plan to retire? How many months before retire they have to submit the paper?
I mean, it could be. I actually don't know if we have a minimum time to notify us. I think it's just like 2 weeks, or it could be. Yeah, it's just. Yeah. So.
They put you in the paper 2 weeks before retire.
What's that?
I'm going to retire 2 weeks later.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, they don't have to tell us, even though you may have the service number of years in place, you may be of retirement age, we may not know when you're going to retire until it happens just, a few days later. Yeah. It's very difficult. And it's a terrible situation. We're digging out of it. We're gonna put some policies in place. Yeah.
Okay, we're talking about C, and that's waiving metered parking fees during the holiday season, November 23rd to January 1st, 2019, to encourage people to buy locally. D, we're waiving the 20 days on the Exeter Thomas McGovern Land Urban Renewal, the transfer. E is authorizing the Office of Emergency Management to accept a grant from the Urban UASI grant for Homeland Security and Preparedness. We did F, L, G, and H, a resolution settling lawsuits. Rosalie Laureano versus the Parking Authority, and Ellis Nanton versus Louis Mecca. I is a second extension of a license agreement with the redevelopment agency allowing use and access to city-owned property within the Grand Jersey redevelopment area. J is authorizing cooperation agreement with Jersey City Redevelopment Agency to improve and provide services with respect to property located within the Jackson Hill redevelopment plan area.
This is one. Can I ask you a question?
Yeah, I can explain.
Yeah. And this is word F, right? Councilman Robinson, right? You don't mind to the pop-up market. Sometimes the pop-up market actually gives us some negative impact existing stores in your district. You don't mind, right?
If you look at where this is located, there are no stores in that district. The only store is next door to a Dunkin' Donuts.
McDonald's, yeah.
McDonald's is a few blocks away. We don't really, we have a chicken place, a restaurant, a liquor store, and a bar.
I don't know, so I'm asking him. Sometimes it's pop-up market, not need is good with it.
This idea actually was presented to us by the CID in that area. And this was actually, for a long time they've been asking for this, and we're finally getting it together.
They put some storefronts.
We were actually considering shipping containers. That was the original idea. There are apparently rules around shipping containers, what you can use them for. So now we're thinking about tents or other types of sort of temporary structures. But the first step you're going to see probably starting next week MLK is going to begin resurfacing next week, probably Monday or Tuesday, and they're going to take material from that and use it to level the ground on this property. We're gonna be meeting and I'll loop the council in on this too, to talk with Michelle and see how exactly we want to manage and maintain this space, and a fence has to go. There's a lot of stuff that has to go into it, but this is just sort of like letting us start.
So I understand the problem.
Yeah, this is their idea. We're just executing it.
Businesses in that neighborhood that is gonna affect negatively. Hopefully it'll, clean up the corner somewhat.
Yeah.
All right, K is a mortgage subordination for 517 Communipaw Avenue. L is a resolution in support of electric vehicles. M, a very happy 100th birthday to Virginia Rossi. N is a resolution celebrating the life of Jeremiah Tehran Grant on the anniversary of his birthday. That was a young man whose life was taken last year.
10K. They'll be here tomorrow, right, Councilman?
I'm sorry?
Councilman Robinson.
Yes.
Yeah. O is a resolution honoring Tau Gamma Phi.
Question 10K.
K?
Yeah.
What's the question?
Yeah. So the 2005 we gave him loan like $300,000. After that we give to like 400. We continue to give the loan, and they continue to fail. So now those kind of loan, we are the first mortgager. We are the first one. But now, because they're going to borrow the money from the bank, $560,000, we're going to be not the first one, we got second one. That bill.
Secondly.
Yeah, secondly. So we are okay to do that? You feel comfortable?
Well, they said the appraisal was just done and it came back at over $1 million. So, I mean, first, second, there's still equity in the building enough to cover, I think, everybody, right?
I mean, you should. Good.
You see that the appraisal, right?
It's a pretty big building where the location.
All right, we're on Tau Gamma Phi, the occasion of their 50th anniversary. P is recognizing and thanking Valerie Picarello for her service to the city of Jersey City. Q is recognizing Filipino American History Month. We did R. S is a contract for the law department. For LexisNexis for online legal research services. We did T. We did the next page, accepting X, which is a contract with Turnout Fire and Safety for the furnishing and delivering of crossing guard uniforms. We have Z4 and Z5, and they are both ratifying professional services agreements with attorneys. Florio Kenny Rival to act as a third-party hearing officer in various disciplinary matters.
We're pulling Z5.
Z5 is withdrawn. Okay. So that means the city clerk can shut up and someone can sing that song. Thank you, Dan. Motion to adjourn. Would someone give me the time, please? What's that? 8:34 by Councilman Rivera, who made the second to the motion. Thank you. To adjourn, Councilperson Ridley, Airy, Bagiano. Just say goodnight. Yun. Good night. Solomon. Robinson. Rivera. Waterman. Lavaro.